Okay, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Hakohen. I've just done my necessary bits and pieces. Just made a quick visit to the pharmacy, done the test, all over with. Okay, I went a little early, and it was okay. You have to do that when you're traveling and around about. These days, you cannot travel without a PCR test that is negative. That's the requirement of almost all airlines in the world. Okay, so let's see. So today is an important day for us, not just regards the Shabbat, but regards the lecture itself. I want you to listen to this lecture, and I want you to listen to it maybe a few times, because you're going to need to listen to it a few times before you get it. Because if you get it, what I'm trying to teach you, you'll never look back. You'll never look back at yourself and say, why isn't this happening to me? The Parsha talks about, the Parsha is from a Torah, Shalak lakha. It's in the book of Numbers, chapters 13, and this is where God, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, the God of everybody, He's not just the God of Israel, He's the God of everyone. He sent, through Moses, the story describes through Moses, sending spies to what's known today as the modern land of Israel. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, send you men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give to the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their Ahavoth, their fathers, shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. Now, and Moses, by the commandment of Yahweh, sent them from the wilderness of Paran, all those men who were the heads of the children of Israel. Now, of course, it next mentions the 12 tribes. It mentions a head. These are going to be noblemen. These were noblemen who were sent. And, we read about them in verse 17, that Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said to them, get up this way southward and go up into the mountains. So they were sent southward, to the south, into the mountainous area, what today will be described as the land of Israel. And I would probably say this land of Israel today, if you've ever been to Israel, and many of you haven't, you've got no clue what we're talking about over here, southward. This is actually talking about the land of Abraham, by the way. It's Hebron. It's those hills and mountains, they're not big mountains like in the Himalayas. They're small hills. And the hills are here described as mountains. And this is a hilly land, maybe small, you could call them small mountains, small hills. And it's a land, where Abraham today is buried as well. I went over there when I visited Israel. I was there in Hebron, small place. A lot of people, Muslims, Christians, Jews, they all go visit, pay pilgrimage. And this is the land, this is the portion of the land, I should say, that was given to Caleb. Okay, that's the part of the land we're talking about here. Now, you already know that, when these people, these spies, they came down to a place called Eshkol. There's a little brook, little stream of water, and they picked up a cluster of grapes. It says that they bore it between two staves, because the grapes were very large, the pomegranates were large, and the figs as well. So this almost sounds like modern, what you might call modern, I wouldn't say GMO, but through modern GMO today, we can create large size fruits. GMO, I guess, allows us to do that. This wasn't GMO in the ancient times. This land, when it describes the fruit, it describes that this land's fruit was very prominent, very well known, and of course it was rich in color, rich in its look, and bigger than usual. So, if you went out to the east today, I don't know, maybe you go to China, maybe you go somewhere else, India, and you look at a tomato in India, and the tomato is rather small size. It's like a plum tomato, small size. And you come to America or to some other European country, and you look at the size of a tomato, it's like, my goodness, it's like your hand size, it's like massive. It's like big. You have about 15 different varieties of tomatoes, and at least one of those varieties is huge in size. So that's the kind of comparison to give you an idea. Like if I go to, if you've seen Mexican bananas over here are small size. They're tiny. I don't know, there's a name for them. And when I was in the East and I saw the bananas over there, they were slightly bigger than the Mexican bananas, not as small. But here you look at the regular size banana, and they are large. They're fairly large. They're bigger than your hand. So in comparison, the banana in the East that I saw was smaller than my hand, maybe half the size of my hand. And here I see the banana, I've got one sitting here on the table, it's actually bigger than my hand. It's actually coming to my wrist. So it's a good size. So that's the kind of idea, is fruitful land, fruitful fruit, the fruits are large, the land is very, abundant land. So Abraham, our forefather, lived in an abundant land. And this story is describing the spies going out and coming back, looking at all these great stuff, and they return. It says they searched the land for 40 days, and they come back to Moses, and Aaron, and they come back to him and to the children of Israel. All the congregations gathered in the desert area somewhere over there, and they come back and they show them the fruit. They say, hey, look at the fruit. It's great, it's nice, big size. And they're all very happy to see it. They say, yeah, that's, wow, massive big size fruit. We didn't see fruit like this in Egypt. And they see it and they're very happy. And then, because God described this land as a land flowing with milk and honey, it's very prosperous, very fruitful land. And they look at it, and what the people come back, and they come back and they see these spies. Remember, these spies are not your ordinary Joe Blogs on the street. Your spies is a nobleman. It's like, a rich man in your city, who basically commands some wealth and commands some numbers of people that respect him. And they go over there and they come back and they say, oh, the cities are big walls. We see these big men over there, giants, and we see the land is dwelled by giants, huge men, and they look very strong, and the cities look very strong, and so on and so forth. So what does that tell you? That tell you that in the sight of Israel, Israelites by themselves, this is the perception now we're talking about. Israel's perception by themselves was that they are weaklings. They are like grasshoppers, and the other people are giants. So they present a report which is very negative, in that, hey, that land has tall people, that land has broad people, they all look like Dwayne Johnson, and we all look like we all look like Charlie Chaplin. So that kind of thing, right? So he's kind of describing, these guys come back and they describe Dwayne Johnsons in the land, and they describe themselves as Charlie Chaplins, Laurel Hardys. And what happens is that Moses and Aaron hear this report, and they are very angry about it. Only two spies, Caleb and Joshua, only the two spies did not describe the land in such terms. But the rest 10 spies, they did. So there's a lot of lessons in here that we can learn. But the majority, I could talk about this all day, but we're not trying to extract the good things out of we're trying to extract the middle meaning the good stuff out of this story, and not the bad stuff. The bad stuff is that the report was very negative. That's the bad stuff. The report was extremely negative, and the Bible, the scriptures, they describe this report as evil. Evil meaning that it was a very negative report. It wasn't an uplifting report. It wasn't like somebody, like you may have a relative that goes to another land, and you ask him, like, let's say if you lived in Mexico and you had a relative go to America, and he looks at the border wall and he says, my God, there's a big border wall over there. And I see Americans, they're like giants, 6 foot tall. 6'2", 6'5" tall, and we Mexicans are only like 5'3" and 5'2" and maybe 5 foot, and we look like, grasshoppers in their eyes. And they come back and say, we don't even know how to climb that wall. Maybe we'll have to dig a tunnel underneath it. So they come back, they describe. This is the kind of picture that this is describing. So the report that's brought back to the natives is very negative, meaning that, hey, don't go there. Otherwise you may injure yourself. Otherwise you may hurt your family. So contrary to what God is saying, contrary to what God has said, that look, I'm going to give you this land, these people, I'm going to take care of them myself, but you're going to get this land, but you're going to have to go through a little bit of something. You're not going to get it for free. Nothing is for free. See, people who want free, they don't ever get anywhere in life because they're into free. But people who spend money, you always hear about millionaires and billionaires who are buying yachts, they are buying big planes, they are buying big houses. It's all about spending money, circulation of wealth. Circulation of wealth creates more wealth. When a rich person buys the Mona Lisa painting, he's actually circulating his wealth to create an asset. An asset is something that represents value for the future, for the present and for the future. And you leave that asset for, maybe your loved one, your relative or your children, and they mean something. So when rich people circulate their money, they spend their money, they create an asset, and they leave it for their generation. This is why you find that rich people, they never become poor. They're continuously becoming rich. And I was reading about, yesterday I was reading a little, sometimes I get news in my telephone, maybe from Google or wherever, and it talks about such and such people and what they are. It talked about Mukesh Ambani, one of the richest men in India. It said that he grew his wealth by, I don't know, let's just say $15 billion. Summarize it. And then it talked about another person, the second person's name is Adani. And it said Adani grew his wealth by $25 billion. And it spoke about Ambani, that Ambani did not take his salary for this year past. Normally he draws a salary of roughly, just over $500,000. But this year he did not draw a salary, and I think it said that he gave his money, he circulated it to some cause, for helping the patients with COVID or whatever it was. So he circulated his money to some cause in India, because India has a lot of cases of this virus, and people, suffering and starving of oxygen. And so, it says that he helped those kind of people out. And he didn't draw the salary, but he still got his share, his company value went up, his share prices went up, and so he ended up, $15 to $20 billion richer at the end of the year still. So that's the story of, Mukesh Ambani. If you want to ever look him up, Mukesh Ambani, good story to read. And Adani Group, good story to read. Definitely, as I always tell you, to read stories about biographies of rich people, because it will uplift you. It will not be an evil report. It will be a positive, good report. So, coming back to that, and we move fast forward into the area where Jesus spoke. You remember, Jesus also spoke about things. And, Jesus spoke about the kingdom. He spoke about seeking the kingdom. He spoke about how you get it, etc. And then we move fast forward into Paul's line, where Paul spoke, and then some other people spoke, and then it was recorded in the chapter of Hebrews as well. It said in verse 1 that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. So, we'll come back and look at that, what it means. Now let me take you back to your lives, all of you. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter your height, and doesn't matter your status. Who you are, what status you belong to, and what height you are. But it's important to understand so it's important to understand your status doesn't matter, your heights don't matter, your ethnicity, what today we describe as where you come from, different ethnicities, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to tell you today is going to be absolutely shocking to you, but it is actually true, whether you accept it or not. It's true, and today you come to a point where you are listening to this broadcast live or after the event, and you realize this, and you probably will saying to yourself, what the heck, how come I didn't know this, or why didn't I know this before, and now I know it, and now I could do something about it. You all have been creating all your life. You've all created all your life, but you have created good and you created bad. You created evil, you created good. You've done both. You've done created of evil and you've done created of good. So some of you, when I say evil doesn't necessarily mean that you're mass murderers. Evil simply means that you did some negative things, you did some positive things, and the sum total is what you are today. You created a house for yourself, you created a car for yourself, you created a relationship for yourself. Everything you created is in front of you, and now you ask yourself, how did I come to this, how did I come to this place today? How did I create this? And I'll explain to you how you created it. You created it unconsciously. You did not create it consciously, because if you were consciously creating, you would have created a big empire for yourself. You would have created houses, boats, yachts, planes, you name it. Expensive cars, expensive jewelry, expensive perfume. Those ladies out there, you would have created that for yourself. But the reason why you didn't create that for yourself is because you did not create consciously. You created unconsciously. You thought you knew. Most of you listening to this, you all think of yourselves maybe very clever, maybe very smart, and maybe some of you are very smart, and maybe some of you are very clever. But when you look around yourself, the things you created may not be so smart. You created negative relationships, not so smart. You created negative equity in your life, not very smart. Means that you didn't do this consciously. No man or woman will create for themselves negative results consciously, but unconsciously, yes. Unconsciously, you create negativity without even knowing about it. So today I'm bringing you to the realization of what happened with ancient Israel and what's happening today in modern America, modern Britain, modern France, modern Germany. This is what's happening. Now, how did I arrive at this result? Very simple. When I was living in England years ago, I met a man that could not sleep. He would be described with what you today call insomnia. But he didn't describe his disease as insomnia either. He did not sleep, by the way. I knew this man. And he was a taxi driver. Okay? It's very interesting. He was a taxi driver, and taxi driving was his second job. Surprise, surprise. He worked at a factory where he was some kind of a supervisor. Like I think they were producing, now if I remember rightly, they were producing farm machinery and they were painting it. So they were some kind of spray painters, and maybe he was doing something else as well. But I know he was in some kind of supervisor role, and he was also driving his own taxi at night and weekends when he wasn't doing that job. And one day I asked him, we call elders by respectfully as uncle. One day I asked him, I said, Uncle, why do you drive a taxi and you do a job as well, and what's the purpose behind that? I'm trying to understand, as a kid back then. And he said to me, son, I don't sleep. I said, you don't need to sleep, or you can't sleep? He said, I don't need to sleep. I stay awake 24 hours. I don't fall asleep. And I didn't ask him out of respect whether it's a problem or whether it's something else, but he didn't want to sleep. He said, no, I don't sleep. I work. I work all the time. I work my one job, then I work the other job. And I said, why is the reason for that? Is it because you want to, you have aspirations to produce something? He said, I like earning money. He said, I'm creating wealth for myself. I like earning money, and I'm saving my money to do other things, buy properties, do whatever he wants to in his life. And he had a number of properties in town. He had quite a few properties in town, and probably abroad as well. So he was, buying properties back then we're talking about, he was probably a whippersnapper in the 70s, and I was only a kid, I was maybe very young at the time. And I spoke to this man in my 20s, I spoke to him, and he told me this. And at the time, I did not understand, what it actually means. But now I understand what it actually means, because, you see, he did not sleep. So he was consciously creating. In his conscious creation, he was only creating wealth for himself. All the hours of the day, he wanted to spend making money. And he knew that all the money he earns, he's going to put it somewhere else where it can grow. And into more money. And that's what he was doing. Now, when you go to bed, and you might think to yourself, oh, I need sleep to rejuvenate myself, and because science tells me this, that you need rejuvenation, and I go to bed. The answer is this, that science is only giving you half of the story. Science doesn't know nothing. If you really ask me, science knows nothing about human experience of life. Science knows nothing today about it. Science only tells you the symptoms of human experience of life. Science doesn't tell you where depression comes from. Science can't tell you why you need sleep, and science can't tell you why you love somebody. Science doesn't know nothing in those respects, in those regards. So, those of you who depend on science, you'll just end up, with some folly at the end of it. Ancients knew this. The ancient people knew that when you sleep, you create. Every one of you, when you sleep at night, you create unconsciously, because you don't know what the heck you're doing, because this is why you produce all sorts of mess in your life, because you were sleeping and you were creating unconsciously. But now you come to a point where I'm teaching you to sleep and create consciously. That's the difference, because now when you create good things only. But before, when you sleep, you did not create good only. You created both good and evil. And the evil that you created is what's hampering your life. When some of you turn up to me and say, Rabbi, I'm exhausted, well, guess what? You created that for yourself, because you don't know what the heck you're doing. That's why you're creating this negative stuff for yourself. But when you know what you're doing, you will not be creating exhaustion. You'll be creating good things in your life. And the Bible tells us, the Bible says that God is the author of evil and God is the author of good. It tells us that in the book of Isaiah the prophet. The Bible also tells us that do not let the sun go down on your anger. Why does the Bible go to make such statements? Unfortunately, today's pastors, majority of today's pastors, for good reason or for otherwise, they do not fully understand the ramifications of those statements. They do not teach it correctly. They do not understand it themselves correctly. That is why everybody and Joe out there are creating good and evil, because you are the operant power. When you are the operant power, when you have God within you, this is what Jesus of Nazareth was going around telling everybody, that you have the kingdom within you, you are the operant power. When you realize that, then you realize that when you sleep, that is when that operant power comes into effect. Whatever you take with yourself at night, if you take with yourself anger, like you just had a fight with your neighbor or your wife or your brother or your sister, and you take it to bed, you create more of that. When you sleep at night with depression, in other words, you are unhappy, and you go to bed, you create more unhappiness, you multiply it. Remember, the Bible also speaks about multiplication in the first chapter of Genesis. Go forth and multiply. And so, what do you multiply? You can multiply your negativities. Some of you do. You can multiply your positivities. Some of you do. You can multiply your poverty. Some of you do. And you can multiply your wealth. Some of you do. This is why some of you are rich, some of you are poor, and some of you are still struggling to get off your back, because you're thinking, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. But the only problem is this, that when you sleep at night unconsciously, and you're creating unconsciously the wrong things, and then you wonder why you made that financial decision 15 years ago that turned out very negative for you. Why you created that negative decision, you don't know how you did it, but you did it. You did it. Nobody put a gun to your head and said you must do it. You created it. You brought it into your life. But do you even recognize it? Do you even realize it? Yeah, most of you don't even want to admit to it. But when you admit to it, then you say, yes, I did. Yes, that relationship I created. With that previous spouse. That was my fault. And so what happens is that when you see relationships like this, and what happens, this is why a violent man, let's say an abusive man, he continues to be an abusive man because he continues to create abusive relationships. He doesn't stop with one relationship being abusive. He is abusive in the next and the following and even the one after that. Why? Because he's creating that unconsciously, not deliberately, unconsciously. Now he can't stop it. He can change, and he can stop it right there after the first and say, you know what, hang on, there's some problem over here and I need to fix it. And the problem is not therapy. The problem is the man's brain, the man's head. He needs to change his head. He needs to change within. And if he starts to change within, this is where we use affirmations, we use subliminals, we use speeches, and we use sound, we use music. The sounds help you to do that, to change the kind of person that you are. But that's just the reality. People don't want to do that. Absolutely, Rabbi Kefa. No therapy or medication is required, but the science crowd out there will tell you, you must go visit a therapist. You must go take these tablets 3 times a day. But the reality is this, you don't. You are the operant power. So when you see a block, it's very simple. I'm gonna give you an exercise today, which I think is really good. Let me give you an exercise today. I'll do this so that you can learn something out of today's session. As I'm about to travel, I think it's only right for me to teach you something before I go back to the east. Okay, listen to this. Hey Google, what's the gestation period for an elephant? Okay, so Google is telling me that the gestation period for an elephant baby is 18 to 22 months. Let me ask another question. What's the gestation period for a chicken? 22 to 21 days is the answer. Let me ask another question. What's the gestation period for a goat? 150 days. What's the gestation period for a tiger? Hey Google, what's the gestation period for a tiger? 93 to 112 days. What is the gestation period for a camel? 15 months for a camel. Okay, and it says bacterian camel 13 months, dromedary camel, which is the regular desert type camel, is 15 months. Okay, great. So what does this teach us? I've asked the gestation periods of producing a seed. Somebody came to me yesterday. This is where this question and answer arose from. Somebody came to me yesterday and said to me, why am I not getting my things come to me? Why is it that I've been waiting X amount of time and I've received an answer from God, that God has said yes to me, to my answer, but I still haven't seen that money I'm looking for, that car, that house, why am I not getting it? And this is my answer to that question publicly, is that it's on your gestation period. Are you producing a camel? It says 22 months. Are you producing an elephant? It gives you almost 2 years. Are you producing a tiger? 112 days. Are you producing a goat? 150 days. Are you producing a chicken? 22 days. What are you producing? I'll take you back to the story of King David. King David goes to God, and King David says to God, he says, Master of heaven and earth, I'm going to go up to battle with the Philistines. Should I go? And God says to King David, yes, you can go. In other words, you will win. And if he wasn't going to win, then God would have said, no, don't go. So God says to him, yes, you can go. So what does King David do? You see, you read the Bible like a little how should I say it, like a little child. You read the Bible like a boy and a girl of 10 years old. And you read it, and it says, King David went up to God and asked God that should I go? And God said yes. And then King David went. And you think, oh, okay, so today is Saturday. Today King David goes up to God and says, God, can I go up to fight the Philistines, my enemies? And God says yes. And then tomorrow Sunday, David goes up to fight. Well, it's not like that. That's what I mean by childhood thinking. King David was told by God that you can go. Now King David starts to practice, starts to build his army, starts to tell, send orders, make ready 5,000 men, of war. So we can all go and make ready the horses, make ready the chariots, make ready the weapons. How long do you think it took King David to do all of that task? Maybe 6 months, maybe even a year. And then he's ready to go to war. King David did not go to fight on Sunday. He didn't get an answer on Saturday, go to fight on Sunday. When America goes to war, America has Navy SEALs, America has Air Force, America has ground forces. America prepares their ground forces for years. They continue to train. They continue to go through their assault courses. They continue to do training in Europe, training in desert conditions, in Nevada and other places. But America doesn't go to war in one day. America may take years to go to war with a nation. So when you go to war with a nation, if America is your nation and your nation's gone to war, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, wherever, Japan, Vietnam, wherever they went to fight, they took time. And the soldiers take time to get there, and the soldiers are trained. That is your gestation period. That is why when God says to you, yes, it doesn't mean that's going to happen tomorrow. And you give up, and you might get frustrated. Some of you get frustrated, and you say, Rabbi, I'm frustrated, it's not coming to me. Because you don't understand the gestation period. You've only planted the seed. You go into your backyard, you plant the seeds, you want to grow tomatoes, and you plant your seeds, and you go tomorrow, you don't expect to see a plant tree, a tree full of tomatoes. If you did, you're crazy, you probably definitely need to be in the lunatic asylum, because you're not right in your mind. You go there tomorrow, and you look at your soil, and you say, I don't see any plants yet, so let me water the plant. So you water it. Then you go the next day, you water it. Then the next week, then 3 weeks later maybe, you see a little plant that's flourishing. It's only small, it's tiny. You continue to water it. Slowly it grows. Over 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, suddenly it's grown bigger. Now you're expecting it to have some seed. And then maybe 7 weeks later, 8 weeks later, you start to see small tomatoes on it. You say, oh yeah, look, I'm getting tomatoes on there. And then they start to grow. You continue to water. You continue to feed that plant. What did Jesus say? when he was leaving, what did he say? Rabbi Kefa, fine example, Rabbi Kefa, fine example. Rabbi Kefa said, I waited 20 plus years for my firstborn son Nakshan that I desired. 20 plus years. Okay? Rabbi Kefa may be a special exception, because, he probably realized that he wanted a son. That desire didn't come to him maybe in the last 10 years, maybe, possibly. Before that, Rabbi Kefa was too busy with his job. He had other kids to look at, and maybe he didn't have the desire. And so maybe we could put a decade at least between him and Nakshan, if not 20, if not 2 decades. So my point is that all of you have gone out, and when I tell you, decide what you want, and some of you say, I want a car, some of you say, I want a house, some of you say, I want $1 million in my account. This is all fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Everything is fine. Now you've chosen your seed, you've chosen your desire, whether that's an elephant, whether that's a camel, whether that's a goat, whether that's a tiger, whether that's a chicken. Now what you do is you want to produce it. You want to bring it into your 3D reality. Now if you are the operant power, like if God is living within you, and God can produce this, and God does not lie, then what's the problem? The problem is you, because you do not feed it. You do not feed it, therefore you do not produce it. So what do? Oh, you're also excited one day, you're telling your neighbor and everybody else how excited you are, and the next day you've forgotten about it. You don't know what you've just gone back to your routine. Routine is what? Or you've gone back to your routine of doing whatever you do every day, right? But you need to give that little time. If all you give is 5 minutes to your desire, you need to give that 5 minutes to your desire every day. When you give that 5 minutes to your desire every day, you're now nurturing, you're babysitting your desire. You're nurturing it, you're feeding it. So when I tell you that when you go to bed at night, you look at something good, maybe you read a good biography. You're not going to read a biography in 1 hour or 15 minutes. Maybe you only see 5 minutes of it. And maybe you only see 5 minutes of pictures. When you give yourself picture, you feed yourself pictures, you never feed yourself negative pictures. This is why I recommend to people that do not look at negative. When I say negative pictures, I mean, murder things. You hear in the news somebody shot somebody and they show you a dead body and they show you blood all over the place. I encourage you not to do that, not to look at those kind of pictures, because they'll usually give you a little disclaimer. This may be disturbing to you. They give you this little disclaimer in the news that these images might be disturbing. Whenever they say that, you shouldn't be looking at those images, period. Because when you look at those images, they are now in your mind. You now remember them, and you'll continue to go over and over those images, and they'll create negativity in your life. So, there's nothing wrong with reading headlines. When the headline says 10 people were massacred, in a mall in Colorado, or 20 people were shot dead in a school, yeah, you can read the headline, but don't look at the pictures. Just leave it to the headlines, because those kind of things you don't want to touch. But when the headline says that Mukesh Ambani made $25 billion and here's how, yeah, go read it. Read the story how he made his $25 billion, because that's a good story. You want to receive the good stories in your head, in your brain, and you want to receive the good in your head. Why do we get up and pray in the morning? Why do we get up and pray? Because the prayer will clear your mind and it will bring good into your day. That's why we pray. That's why we pick up the Siddur in the morning and say, our Shema Israel prayer, or we read we look at the 10 commandments, or we read the prayer that, we thank God for the creation. This is why we do it. This is why we call him the King of the heaven and the earth. This is why we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Why we say that? Because this brings good into our life, acknowledging the operant power. So, I was reading a story. Yesterday I was looking at the sun. coming up in the morning over here in Ohio, and it was kind of half out, maybe a little bit under half. It wasn't fully out yet. So I looked at it. I took a couple of pictures, 2-3 pictures, and sent it off to some friends, sent one to Kefa as well, and it was good. And today it reminded me of a story, and the story is in the Midrash, and it speaks about prayer. And this is both in the Islamic and this is both in the Jewish thing. Okay? It talks in both sides about when not to pray. And one of the stories that is mentioned is that when the sun is coming out and it's only maybe half, maybe a quarter, don't pray. Now some of you might be thinking, what does that mean? Don't pray when the sun is a half or a quarter. Well, to the ancient people it meant something. And so they advised their people not to do something, because it could create negative effect. So, call it religion, call it whatever you want to, but that's what it does. It creates a negative effect. And the story goes that there was a Jewish woman, and the sun hadn't come out fully, and she went and she gave her husband milk. She wasn't supposed to at that point, and he drank the milk perhaps before the sun came up, or I would say whilst it was coming up. He drank it, and she fell. She had an accident and broke her leg. Okay? By the way, this is a Jewish story. This is recorded. So my point, what I'm trying to teach you, is that don't take this for a joke and a laugh. It's not a joke and a laugh. It actually does. It is true that when you do something you're not meant to do it, it'll create a negative result. Now, many of you will never understand what I just said, and I think I'll leave it at that. I don't need to explain it any further than what I just did. This is why when we do things either at sunset or sunrise. We don't do it in between. In other words, we do not do it at half sun and half sunset. We make sure it's done complete. Then we do it. Don't do it at half. Don't do it at quarter. So that's an important lesson for you to learn and recognize. Now the other thing important for you to learn and recognize is that you're always creating. Whether you're creating negative results or positive results, you're always creating. Devorah, I didn't quite understand you said like writing negatives to get rid of on new moon. No, when the new moon is up, the new moon is up. In other words, you already got the moon, and you can write positive things, and you can remove your negativities by writing positive things and speaking positive things. That's no problem. But you don't do it at half. You don't do it you're not doing it when the moon is just kind of showing 30%. And you don't do it when the sun is showing 20%. You don't do it. There is a negative effect in that. And I can't explain it in public. Okay? It's not possible to explain everything publicly. It's enough for me to say it, you don't do it. That's just enough. So, coming back to your sleeping pattern. When you sleep, and I come back to that man I spoke about earlier who could not, or maybe did not want to, or maybe did not need to sleep. And he continuously worked. I used to drive between Florida and New York. It took me 24 hours, and I drove, and I did not sleep either. And I just stopped at gas stations, picked up the gas I needed, got myself a cup of coffee, and I continued to drive. And I can do that even today. I can drive 24 hours without sleeping. So my point is that I chose not to sleep. It didn't kill me. It didn't give me any diseases. It didn't give me nothing. It got me there on time actually. So my point is that this man that I knew, he did not need to sleep. He continuously worked, and I was amazed at his energy, that he did not sleep. Because normally you're taught that you sleep and you energize yourself. Your cells are healing and replaced, and broken cells are recreated when you sleep. But also, let me tell you what sleep actually is. Sleep is actually to create. You are creators in your sleep. You create. Now, unconsciously, by the way. Majority of you today create in your sleep unconsciously. I'm teaching you to create consciously and responsibly, so that you do not create negativity in your life. Now, I gave Rabbi Kefa some people's names who lived long life, and some of them might still be alive. Now, in France, there was a woman called Jeanne Colmont, I think if I spell it right, Jeanne Colmont. She, was a woman that lived for, I believe it was 122 years. Yeah, 122 years and 164 days. This woman lived, by the way. And then there's a man in Mexico that's still alive. His name is Manuel Garcia, and he's still alive. And I think he's alive today, and his age is 124. And he looks like an 80 years old, maybe. But he's still alive, by the way. He's a farmer. And I read the little testimony of these people, little report on these people. And one report on the woman said that she got up in the morning. She told her wherever she lived, she belonged to a rich family, and wherever she lived, she told them to wake her up at 6:45. She was up sharp every day, and she would stand in front of a window and she look at the sunrise, and she will give thanks to God out loud. Thank you, Lord, for giving me this new day. Thank you, Lord, for giving this sunrise. Woman did that every day. Think about it. And then she lived a long life, and then now she's passed on right now, and she has a record in there. Then this other man, the Garcia man is still alive. He's 124 years old, or young, I should say. And I was joking about him. That he needs a new set of teeth. So my point about this man is, what is in this man that gave him long life? He spoke about it. He said, I get up at 5:30 every morning, and I get up, I have 2 eggs, my banana smoothie, and I go to my farm, and he feeds his chickens, and he tends to his farm. And the woman, her practice was that she would eat 1 kilogram of chocolate every week. 2.2 pounds. That's 1 kilogram. She loved eating chocolate. And she said, I gave thanks to God, and I had no, negativity. So when I spoke to Rabbi Kefa said, that these 2 individuals, one is alive and one passed on, they said these 2 individuals must have been positive people. And I said, absolutely. They probably were, and they probably are positive people, because they looked out for themselves. The man basically said, look out for yourself. Look after yourself. If you get ill, take care of yourself. He said, you take care of yourself. Whether you take vitamins or whatever, you take care of yourself. And this man is still alive, by the way. He wants to live to 125 years old. So that's his aspiration. And my point is this, that they have a routine. They have a ritual. So when I tell you, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sure, it's a struggle. I'm not saying it's easy. Some of you struggle. And so I say, okay, if you can't get up at 5, get up at 6. If you can't get up at 6, get up at 7. But make a routine, ritual, that you're going to get up at 7 every morning, and you're going to run your routine, your affirmations, your meditation, whether you write, whether you read, you're going to do that. So when you sleep at night, you sleep consciously. You sleep with a conscious head. You sleep with a creation head. You say, I want to create a car for myself. So you sleep with that head that creates a car, not a bike. You don't create a car and find it's a bike. And you create a house. When we go out and we get a house, let me give you a little story. You go out, you speak to the bank, and you say, hey, I like that house on the street, and I want to buy that house, and it's $100,000, and the bank says, sure, put down $5,000 deposit, and you can buy that $100,000 home. Then you'll pay me, $500 a month for 30 years, and you can have that house. And I go happily, and I sign the contract, and I buy the house, and I'm so positive and so happy. Hey, I just created a new house, yet I've forgotten. In my cleverness, I have forgotten that I've just made myself a slave to the bank for 30 years. That's the kind of creation you do not want. If you creating this kind of creation, you don't want it. And many of you, including myself, in the past, we've done that mistake. By the way, I haven't done it the same effect, but you've probably done it more than me. But I haven't done it to the same effect, but you have. I didn't do that mistake, and even in England. So my point is that many of us today, ignorantly, I'm not saying you do it deliberately, you do it unconsciously, ignorantly. You creating this mistake every day. When you go to bed, you are producing unconsciously, and you produce a house. House is an example. It could be a house, it could be a car, it could be something else. You're producing this example every day in your unconsciousness, and then you're regretting it for the rest of your life. Rest of your life you beat yourself up, you're punching yourself in your face. Why did I do that? Why did I get this house? This house is breaking down, roof is leaking, plumbing is broke. Why did I do that? I'm stupid or something. It's because you did it by unconscious creation. When the Bible says, let me now give you another illustration. When the Bible says in book of Hebrews, the letter of Hebrews, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I asked this question to somebody, what is faith to you? And they said, well, believing in God and trusting in God. I said, okay, what else? And then, they gave me a little bit more explanation. Faith, by the way, is not believing in God. That is far, far from it. Because what does it say? It says faith is a substance. But is God a substance? Is God in front of me as a banana? Is God in front of me as my phone? Or is God in front of me as my laptop? Neither of these. But yet God is within these things. It's both, or it's neither. So what is faith? And the letter of Hebrews, whoever wrote it, he described it as substance. And I spoke about faith before as well. And I said faith is definitely not believing. That's far from it. Because it says faith is a substance of things. So you go to your kitchen. You say you're going to make porridge today. And I'll take my example. If I want to make porridge, and it might be cookies, it might be something else for you. You go to the kitchen, you say, I say to myself, I'm going to make porridge. And I get myself some milk. I get myself maybe some raisins. And I get myself sugar. And of course the porridge, the dry item. And I mix them up, and I boil the milk, and I stand there stirring it, and then 10 minutes later I have a little thick mixture, and that's porridge for me. Because that might be a breakfast item. I'm giving an example. Now learn carefully what my example is telling you. You might be, on the other hand, maybe you're a good baker. You go to your kitchen, you say, today I'm going to make cookies. So you get your cookie chips from Walmart or somewhere, you bring it to the home, you get your butter, you get your little cocoa powder, you get your sugar that you're going to put in, and you get your stirrer and everything, and you mix it all up. You put the necessary items in. You now start forming your cookies, and you're ready to bake. So what is faith? Faith for me is the items that I use in my porridge. In other words, the milk, the raisins, the sugar, and the actual porridge, dry porridge. That is faith for me. When I mix them all up and I cook it for 5-10 minutes, it becomes the evidence of things not seen. In other words, I did not see that happening, but now I see it happen because I just did it. Okay? You were about to make cookies, and you went to the kitchen. You first went to Walmart or somewhere, you got your items, and you put it on your table. That is faith. You've got your items there. You got your cookie chips, chocolate chips, you got your cocoa powder, you got your sugar, and you got your butter. And you mixing, you got your little, stirrer there. So that is faith. Faith is things. What do I mean by things? Faith, I spoke about, when I said it last time, I explained it differently. faith is feeling. What do I mean by feeling? Well, feeling is touch, taste, sound, smell. Okay? I'm describing 4 things, and there's probably 5, but I'm describing 4. So what does he mean by faith? Well, I touch the milk, I touch the porridge, I smell the milk, I smell the sugar, and when the porridge is ready, I smell the porridge. That is faith. Now, if you were making a banana smoothie, a banana and pear and apple, you bring your banana, you bring your pear, you bring your apple, you mix them together, but you can smell the banana distinctly. So what is faith? Faith is banana, faith is smell. Faith is smell. Faith is sound. Now, of course, the banana doesn't have a sound, but you might be stirring it. In the smoothie, it might have a sound of the actual act, but the banana itself don't have a sound. But we can rely on the smell. See, we don't need to worry about sound here. Here we only worried about the banana smell. I have a banana right in front of me over here. It has a distinct smell, and I can smell it just sitting on my table. And everybody who has a banana in their home, if you look at it, you don't even need to put your nose to it, you can smell it, because it has a distinct smell. So for a banana, I need to smell it. That is my faith of a banana. All I need for a banana is sight is the 5th one. Sight and smell. That is my faith. If I said I have faith in banana, what are the 2 items I need? Sight and smell. That is faith in a banana. That is what the ancients described as faith. So when the Israelite spies, when they brought back their big grapes and the big pomegranates, they brought back what? Sight, smell. No sound, by the way. Only sight and smell. That was a faith of the rest of Israelites. They looked at it and they said, wow, what a big banana. Wow, what a big pomegranate. Wow, what a big grapes. They said that. So what does that mean to you? Now let me describe to you how a rich person thinks. A rich person doesn't think, oh yeah, I gotta get 1,000 bananas to be rich. No. Get a $1 note. If the only thing you got is a $1 note in front of you, get a $1 note. Now I'm going to teach you how to build wealth. For you, Olivia, in France, you get your euro. And for you, Lion Princess, you get your British pound. Get a £5 note, or a £10 or a £20 note. Those of you who got whatever denomination of dollar, 5, 1, 20, 10, 100, don't matter which one. Get one of your denominations of dollar. Okay? You get it. You hold it in front of you. Now you hold it in front of you. And what do you see? You see a dollar, a euro, or a pound in front of you. And you look at it. And you say, I have faith because I see a dollar in front of me. I have sight. I have no smell yet. So I'm going to smell it. I put it to my nose. I now smell the $1 note in my hand. Denomination don't matter. You smell it. Every morning you pick up your $1 note and you smell it. Just like you smell your porridge. Just like you can smell your bananas. Now what does that teach you? That teaches you that you have faith in your money. And if I keep hearing from you, oh, my money is not valuable, my money is not valued anything, gold is, and you haven't got no gold, you need to shut up and get out. Because you don't know what the heck you're talking about. That dollar that you hold in front of you, when you multiply that, $10 note times 1,000, that's now $10,000. When you multiply it times 1,000,000, that $10 note will become $10 million. That's where you want to be. Now you understand where I'm coming from? How'd you get there? By faith. What is faith? The smell, the sound, the sight. That's what faith is. Do you have that? I think every one of you could have that. But before you didn't have it. Before you had airy-fairy statements. Oh yeah, I have faith and yeah, God is there. But you're living the life of a poor beggar. Think about that. But I'm teaching you no. You can live better. Smell your money. Look at your money. Feel it. Because you also have feel. Remember the feeling? What did Neville say? Feeling is the secret. What is feeling? Feeling is sound, smell, taste, touch. If I don't have my wife before me, let's just say you are a married man or a married woman, and you don't have your husband before you, and you don't have your wife before you, and you go to work, you go to your office, and you sitting there on your desk, and you're imagining that you're with your wife or you're with your husband. How do you imagine it? You have the feeling of what? Touch, right? You have the feeling of touch. Maybe you have the feeling of a kiss you have with your husband and wife, and maybe something else. I don't want to make it too graphic. So smell is very important. What does a dog do? How does a dog work? A dog has very strong smell. They're saying that they want to use dogs now to detect COVID-19, wherever they, airports or wherever they are. The dog can detect bombs, and the dog can detect drugs. So they give that dog that thing to smell, and the dog smells it. When somebody's lost, they give the dog some clothes of that person, the dog smells it, and the dog just follows his smell and takes you there. So the dog's smell is very strong. By the way, smell is faith. Taste is faith. Touch is faith. That is what that statement means. Now start reading that statement with my eyes. What does it say? Faith is the substance. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So before I make that porridge, I have faith because I have smell of my milk, my porridge, the raisins, the sugar. I have smell of that. I have sight of that. I have faith. Then I produce it. I have evidence. So to make that $1 million is not that difficult if you think about it. Think about it. It's not that difficult as it sounds like. Because if it was that difficult, we wouldn't have so many millionaires in the world today. Just think about that for a minute. Rest back and think, how did they get their million? And why you can't get it either? Why can't you get it? The difference is going to be your faith and their faith. That's the difference. Is how you look at it, how you perceive it. So this is why I said when you go to bed at night, you consciously create. Not unconsciously. Because unconsciously, you may create things you don't like and you don't want. If there are negativities in your life, like if there are things in your life that you don't like, and we may all have them. I'm not saying that everybody does. Many people have negativities in their life and they want to get rid of them. For some people it might be drugs. For other people it might be something else. It might be sugar. It might be chocolates. It might be, I don't know, whatever it is. For me, I don't suffer from that. I suffer from maybe chocoholic. That's okay. I like my chocolates. I don't need to get rid of that habit. But my point is that it might be something. It might be chocolate. It might be drinking too much sugar. It might be Coca-Cola. My younger brother, he has a habit of drinking Coca-Cola soda every day. He must have it. He lives in England, by the way. He must have his, what you call soda in America, Coca-Cola. He must have it. He always has bottles in his fridge, 3 or 4 bottles all the time, every day. He can't live without his soda. That's his habit. That's his addiction. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't do any drugs, he doesn't do any of those things, but he must have his Coke. He must have soda every day. And he religiously drinks it. And it's perfectly fine, and it's perfectly okay. So my point is, that's his vice. That is his vice. Coca-Cola. My vice is chocolates. That's my vice, okay? So we all have a vice. It might be good, it might be bad for your body. So I read about chocolate, it's all good. So I'm happy with the chocolate side. And I read about soda, it's all negative, it's all bad. It can do all sorts of problems to you. But nevertheless, it's your vice, good or bad. So, and it's all your mindset. Where do you live? What do you desire? How you think about yourself? And my brother probably doesn't think like the rest of the world, thinking negative all the time, thinking, oh, I'm going to be ill if I drink too much Coke. He doesn't think like that. He thinks, I'm okay. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I can drink all the Coke I want and I'm okay. And he is. He is okay. Why? Because it's his mindset. It's all within the mind. It's not what the commercials tell you. It's not what the doctors tell you. It's all in your mind. Depression is in your mind. If you want to be undepressed, you fix your mind and you become undepressed. If you want to get off alcohol, you fix your mind. If you get off cigarettes, you fix your mind. You can get off cigarettes, you can get off alcohol, you can get off drugs, anything. You fix yourself with your faith. That is what faith is about. Unfortunately, our ancient brethren, they did not have that kind of faith. Israel, by and large, in the desert, did not have that faith. They were whiners, they were complainers, and they were everything that I see many people today doing exactly the same thing. I see many people today whiners and complainers, just like my ancient brothers and sisters. You don't want to go there. Okay? Next time you go to bed, you ask yourself the question, where do you want to be? You create consciously. So you imagine, you see something good before you go to bed. You imagine at night, that's your creation time. That is your precious time to create. You're not sleeping for your energy, by the way. Forget about what science tells you. You're sleeping for your creation. You're now doing God's part in your life. You're going to be creating good stuff or bad stuff. If you do unconsciously, you're going to create bad stuff. If you're going to do it consciously, you're going to create good stuff. Because unconsciously, you might create good as well. And you might create bad. You might create both unconsciously. Consciously, you will never want to create negative. You always want to create good. That's why I said, money, get a faith in money first. If you're going to keep telling me the statement, oh, my money is not valued, oh, my money is not valued, guess where you're going to live? And if I tell you that my money is valuable, if I tell you that my money is valuable, I don't care, it doesn't need to be backed with gold, by the way. If I carry this dollar to the east, it's worth a lot of money. So I don't care about dollar backed with gold or not. To me, that's nonsensical. People who come up with this argument, they don't know nothing about life. If you've never left your town, you've never left your state, you need to get a life. You need to leave town and go sit with people. Go sit with other relatives. Go sit with other nations and look at what people are saying about the dollar. Then you will realize the value of your money. See, this is the problem. The problem that I'm dealing with is I live with ignorant people. People who have never traveled. And when people have never traveled, they don't know what the world is saying about the dollar. And you go to the world, and you know what the world says about the dollar? I want the dollar. Give it to me. You go to an airport in an international country, and you know what they ask for? Can I buy the dollars from you? Can you give me some dollars? You ask the porter, can you please take my bags outside? And the porter says, can you pay me in dollars? Think about what I just said. The porter of another country asking you to pay him with dollars. That's my point. My point is, here you're whining about your money not having value. Dollar is king, by the way. Absolutely, Eddie. Dollar is king everywhere. The British pound is king wherever you go. You know, I took some British pound to a Western Union place in the East, and I said, can I exchange this for some local money? And he asked me, said, do you have 50 pound notes or do you have a lower denomination? And I said, I think I had 20 pound denominations. And I said, I have 20 pound notes only, 5 notes of 20 pounds. He said, okay, no problem, we'll give you X amount of money. And so I got X amount of local money. Now, I went to exchange dollar. Right? I had a dollar in my purse as well. And I said, I want to exchange dollar. And what you going to give me? He said, what kind of currency what kind of currency denomination? I said, I have $100 note. He says, okay, we can give you a good price for that. Dollar is king, my friends. Dollar is king. And you are telling me in America, I have people telling me the ignorant people in America, oh, my dollar is not backed by gold, my dollar is not backed by gold. And I'm telling the ignorant, I'm not telling anything to the I don't need to. I don't need to say anything, because I know better. When Mukesh Ambani, when he has $50 million in his bank, he's not crying about backed by gold, because he's got all the gold in his house. If you ever look at Mukesh Ambani's house on YouTube, make a visit. Go to YouTube and type Mukesh Ambani, Mukeshambani. Look at his house and look at how much gold he has in that house. And guess where he got that gold from? By money, by paper money. Does money grow on trees? Absolutely. People tell you that money doesn't grow on trees. I tell you money grows on trees. The dollar grows on trees. Yes, make that an affirmation. My dollars grow on trees. Absolutely. So, you need to change the way you think. All of you listening, you need to change the way you think. You need to have faith. And faith is a substance, and I keep using the word substance, of things, and evidence of things not seen. That is faith. When you have a property, and I know people in this room who have properties, your property is dollars in real terms. But your property doesn't have a dollar sign on it, does it? And think about that. Your property, right, is dollars. Really, if you cashed it, Lion Princess, if you cash your house today, your house, if it's your own property, it's pounds. It's pounds and pence, right, when you cash it. But it's bricks and mortar otherwise. So in America, majority of the houses might be made of wood or maybe brick and mortar, one or the other. It's dollars and cents. So your property or properties is dollars and cents. But what do you moaning about all the time? That your dollar doesn't have backing by the gold, as if you're talking like a, in England, what some British people will say that, and I don't want to use that term, but I will use it just to illustrate the point. They will say in England, if I was sitting in my office, and if I made that statement in England, you know what they say? Stop speaking out of your ass. That's what they'll tell me in England. British are very blunt. I'm telling you. In London, the British are very blunt. They'll say it right into your face. Stop speaking out of your ass, mate. Because dollar is dollar and pound is pound. Now you start changing your thinking and stop saying those words. If you ever said it, don't ever say it again. Because you're only diminishing yourself. You're not diminishing anybody else. You're not diminishing the dollar, and you're not diminishing the pound. The pound will continue to exist as a currency, and the dollar will continue to exist as a currency. Bitcoin or no Bitcoin, these will continue to exist. And maybe Bitcoin will exist as well. But the point is this, right now Bitcoin is getting all the thrashing getting thrashing and a half. And Rabbi Zechariah said that in 2015, he said when the price of Bitcoin, he said it was around $200, and I said to them that buy 5 Bitcoins and hold them. And Rabbi Zechariah said himself last week, I believe, that if we had bought 5 Bitcoins for $1,000, that Bitcoin went to $60,000 each. Think about how much money you would have had. Let's say you never got to 60. Let's say you only got to $30,000 each. 6 times 3, 30 is 180. Is going to be $180,000. And if you multiply it by 60, and if you had 10 Bitcoins at 60,000, and you only managed to sell it for 50 because you were late in the party, you made $500,000 just by holding it. But so my point is this, that I can only tell you. I can't force you to, I can show you the water, but I can't force you to drink that water. I can show you, but I can't force you. You need to take action yourself. You're all responsible for your own action. Don't blame me. Don't come to me and say to me, Rabbi, you gave me the advice and I didn't act on it. You need to act upon when given the advice. Don't act upon it 6 years later when it's too late. Right now, today, you shouldn't be touching the Bitcoin, let alone buying it. You shouldn't be touching it, because they're gonna take Bitcoin to the ground, and then Bitcoin will have a resurrection again. So wait till it hits the ground. Wait for the resurrection time. Now the wise one will wait, but the others will just buy and will crushed. So don't get crushed in the market. Wait for the right time. People who have spare, cash, like Elon Musk, they can do that. They can go buy Dogecoin. They can invest their money in any of these places and make more out of it, because they have spare dollars. They have businesses, big businesses, and they can take $1 billion out, and it's no big deal. But for you to take, $5,000 out might be a big deal. Might be problematic if you lost it. So you need to, for you need to be very clear of what you want in your life. That's your seed. When you're very clear of your seed, you plant it and you water it every day. Your affirmations, your meditations, you're listening to the sound, you're listening to your meditation or your money, oration is your nurturing that money. I am pretty sure, in fact I am certain, when I go into the East, I sit with some big wigs over there. I'm telling you that. And when I sit with those big wigs and I hear their talk, they don't talk about, how bad the dollar is and why it's not backed by the gold. They never even say that. They love the dollar and they love the pound. What they tell me is this: I've got 5 houses, I'm about to buy 5 more. I've got 10 houses and I'm about to invest in 20 more. That's what I hear in these big places. I don't hear people saying, I've got 1 house and I'm struggling to make payments. No, they say, I already have 30 houses and I'm going to invest in 100 more. And they might say, I have 50 plots of land and I'm about to invest in 10 more or 100 more. And if you think I'm joking, I sat with people like that. I went to one person's house and I was sitting with him, and the person asked me, good man, he's a young man, he's only about maybe 30 years old, and he shook hands with me, and I sat down, and he said to me, what would you like? He said, I have cows, I have goats, he said, I have buffaloes. Which milk would you like to drink? Fresh. I said to him, since I've come from America, I'm used to cow milk. Can I please have cow milk? He says, no problem. He asked his servant. The servant said, go to the yard. There's all the cows parked over there. He says, bring me 2 glasses of cow's milk. So the servant goes. He gets 2 cows' milk, fresh. This is not boiled or anything. They bring the fresh milk. He pours it into the glass. He gives me, here you go. Have some milk. I sit there and I had 1 glass of milk. Then he says, would you like some more? I said, yeah, sure. And he pours me another glass. I have 2 glasses cow milk right there. And he's offering me 3 different types of milk. This is a rich man, by the way. This is a man who had wealth to his name. He owned a lot of land over there. And he said to me, I have 11 fields of land. He describes the location in the city. He says, I have 11 fields of land in such and such place. Would you like to come and I'll show you someday? And I said, sure, absolutely, I'll come. And we'll sit down and I'd like to see your plot of land, what you have. This is how the rich people live, by the way. They don't sit there moaning about the dollar and moaning about Bitcoin. They talk about their wealth. And they tell you about their wealth. And they want you to give them a description or maybe some word about their wealth. Because they're not telling you for the sake of telling you. They're telling you because they're trying to tell you that they are rich people and they are wise people, and you need to tell them. I don't sit there and say, hey, why the heck you have 10 fields and I don't have 1? Why you have 10 and I don't even have 1? I don't say that. I say, you know what, may God give you 10 more fields, and I'd love to see your fields of land. What are you growing these days? And they'll say, I've given that land to such and such person and they are growing wheat, or maybe they're growing sugar cane. Sugar cane produces sugar, by the way. So this is my point. make the right friends. Don't, sit with paupers. Don't sit with beggars. And, who's just going to tell you stories of beggars. Like, oh, I picked up the food from the bin yesterday and that's my meal. Don't do that. The company that you sit with is the company you make. What you believe yourself to be is what you will be. God said to Israel that you are princesses and you are princes. You are kings and you are queens. But what did Israel do? Ancient Israel, what did they do? They squandered it. Whine about, or they're always whining, complaining against Moses, complaining against Aaron, whining and whining and whining. What was the result at the end? Jesus comes up. We fast forward and we meet Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus comes up and he says the following, and I will read from the book of Matthew. Let me open the book of Matthew over here. This is fantastic. I tell you, when I read this, I'm so enlightened. It's just fantastic stuff. It's just fantastic. I can't describe my, elation when I read it. And the understanding that I get out of these statements. These are precious, precious statements. And he says this. In book of Matthew, and I'll open it over here, chapter 6, verse 33. He says, but above all, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. So what does that actually mean? It doesn't mean what the religious kooks out there tell you. Seek first the kingdom. What does he say? What is he saying? He's saying, look at your state. What state do you live in? And he's not talking about Ohio. He's not talking about Florida. He's definitely not talking about London. He is saying, what state do you, Rabbi Simon, live in? Well, Master Yeshua, I live in the state of a king. I am a king. Okay, Simon, if you are a king, then go and be a king, and everything else will be given to you. Well, there you have it. If you are living as a queen, what you should be telling yourself every day in front of the mirror and in front of other people, I am a queen. And I have a queen's wealth and I have a queen's passage. I am a princess. And I have a princess's wealth and I have a princess's passage. And if you're telling yourself that your dollar is not worth money, then shame on you. Because you learn nothing from me and you learn nothing from the scriptures. But if you have faith, which I described earlier, and if you're anything like our ancient brethren, you will never get anywhere in life. So you need to come out of that, kook mentality of whining all the time. And you need to change. And you need to create consciously at night, because that's why God gave us sleep. So we can create consciously good things that we want in our life. Whether that be a car, whether that be houses, whether that be other things that you desire. It's all in the realms of possibility. But where do you live? Is exactly the question that Jesus will ask me. If he saw me today, he'll ask me, where do you live, Mr. Simon or Rabbi Simon, where do you live? And I'll have to answer that, where I live. I live as a king, and I live in a king's palace. And I'm not going to answer any less than that. And Master, I live as a king. I'm a king, I have authority of a king. I can make one phone call and I can call 20 men. I have that kind of authority. And I can speak and I can heal somebody 7,000 miles away. I have that kind of authority, Master Yeshua. And you gave it to me. Thank you. So this is where I live. I don't live in these places where you have, scrapes and people who are homeless. I don't live in homeless environment. I live in palaces and I sit with princesses and princes. And so, what state are you in? That is what Matthew 6:33 speaks about. What state are you in? Are you in the kingdom? That's your state. And if your state is poverty, then that's the state you created for yourself. And if your state is a king and a queen, then that is a state you create. Whatever you believe, it's true. Whatever you believe for yourself, it's 100% true. Because that's the state you have created. Are you in the Jesus state of creating good, wonderful things for yourself? Are you in the Moses state, creating great things for yourself? Being the owner of lands, properties, wealth? Or are you in the state of a beggar? Think about what I said and work on it, because that is what faith is about. Faith is substance that you can touch, feel, smell, and even hear. So when you want to be a millionaire, you have to ask yourself the question, have you ever even seen $1 million? Maybe yes, maybe no. And if you've never seen it, you ask yourself, what does it feel like to have $1 million? How would I feel when I have $1 million? What would I be saying to my friends around me or my family? What would I be doing? Would I have more responsibility or would I have less responsibility? Would I be going out to buy a car that I like? Would I be going to buy the property that I like? Or would I just be sitting in my home whining and complaining about it? See where I'm going? What would you say when you have $1 million? What would your neighbors say? What would your brother and sister say? You hear that in your ear. Hearing is faith. What does a sister say? Oh, that brother of mine, I don't know where he got it, but he's a millionaire. He got his $1 million from somewhere. He made multi-millions. I don't know how he made it. What a lucky man. That's what I hear. What do you hear? You are a lucky man. You got $1 million+ in your account. You're a lucky man. What do you hear? Your sister saying, that sister of mine, she's very lucky. She's got $5 million in her bank. She's got 10 properties to her name. She's a very lucky woman. I wish I was like that. That's what you hear. So it's all about that. And you practice that. Hearing is faith. You feel. How do you feel? Well, you got money in front of you. You got a $10 note, £5 note, €5 note. You smell it. Put it to your nose. That's my smell. That's my sight. I look at it. Yeah, I feel it. It's in front of me. Yeah, it's paper. And it grows on trees. Yeah, my dollar grows on trees. Absolutely. My dollars grows on trees. I am the operant power. I am the operant power. Money comes to me easily and effortlessly because I'm the operant power. Baruch Hashem Yahweh, that is my lesson to you. That is a road to riches. Rich people don't sit there and whine. They sit there and say, what's the next business deal that I'm about to do? So when you learn and do the same, you will never be poor again. There was a movie, Indian movie, and I kind of like the dialogue that man said in that movie. He takes a bundle of money and he puts one of the notes to his nose and he smells it. And you know what he says? The best perfume in the world. And I take a note to my nose and I smell it. The best perfume in the world. Money grows on trees. Thank you. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Over to you, Rabbi Kefa.
Indeed, money grows on trees. Indeed. Money is paper. Paper is a tree. Last time I checked. Baruch Hashem. Indeed, money grows. Question is, how many trees, how many in your garden do you have that are money material, are producing money, multiplied money? Baruch Hashem. We give thanks to God, Kohen, for the wonderful lecture going forward. If I could be heard, can I get a one? Safe travels to you as well, Kohen, as you get ready to travel out to the east, Baruch Hashem. As we continue on, I will just press on with the lecture as well and continue on where our Kohen left off. He talked about being in a particular state, but I titled my lecture Current Conditions, because when you look at this Parsha, at the great lessons that we can learn from our patriarchs, and the great history that we have in our holy books, we must examine this, and every person must examine this for themselves as well. We must look at our current conditions, but it's relative depending on how you look at your current conditions to be able to tell, where you're going and what you're producing for yourself, what you're manifesting for yourself, what you're materializing for yourself. When you look at your current conditions, say that with me now, current conditions. How do you see your current conditions? We see your current conditions, yet future, and what your current conditions are presently. It's your current condition. Your current condition. And just like stated in our Queen's lecture, your current condition will dictate in 10 years, or where you will be in 20 years, or where you will be right now. Your current conditions. How do you look at yourself? How do you see yourself? Right in your current condition. When you look at your current condition, do you say, I am a millionaire? Do you see yourself as a millionaire? Do you see yourself, I am a peaceful person? I am a loving person? I am a wonderful person? Your current conditions. It all intertwines with what our Queen was talking about, with your state of being. Your state of how do you be right now? Your current condition. Now, your current will dictate what's going to happen to you. And this is just what we see take place in your current condition, depending on what choice you make or what you decide for yourself. You see, you have the ability to decide how you want to be in your current condition. You have that ability. Or you could be manipulated and have others tell you how your current condition is going to be. It could be a spouse. It could be television commercials. It could be those that you see as leadership. That's why it's so important to go back to that golden rule about who you listen to. Because we see with our patriarchs that, I'm telling you, I don't know, does anybody know if there's a movie about the 10 spies? I'm telling you, somebody right now, if you love producing movies, this would be a great movie called The 12 Spies. Does anybody know if there's a movie about the 12 spies? Anybody? Has anybody done that? Is there even a documentary on the 12 spies and what actually went down? Because just like our Queen stated, and all of you know that are students of the Torah, there are so many different lessons that we can learn at so many different levels about the 12 spies. The 12 spies. And again, who do you listen to? Because just like our Queen stated to you, and just like it written down in roster form in the Torah, that these were men of renown. This was not some Joe Blog, you pull them off the alley and say, hey, you're going to represent the clan. No, these were representatives of each of the 12 tribes of Israel. These were representatives of the 12 tribes of Israel. So, these would be like, if we put it in today's terms, I guess these would be like, the senators and of the particular states here in America. The senators of those that are representing your particular state, the state of Texas, the state of Florida, those that are in the Senate that actually make laws and are reputable and are looked up to and respected, men that have been chosen by the people to represent a particular clan, a particular state. I don't know if y'all do y'all have those that those particular, y'all have them in your house, right? The particular people that represent your neighborhoods or your districts, or what do you call them in the UK? Lion King. You call them, y'all have like provinces? What do y'all have? But anyway, that particular individual, that particular man that represents you, he's your leader. He's representing you. He's going to, the powers that be to represent and to give you voice and to give you a say. Oh, your councils, to represent your councils wherever you're located in Baruch Hashem. So these are men that looked up to and respected, and for a better word, so we call them leaders. They were leaders. They were leaders. And so when we ask the question, who do you listen to? The Torah, this is a great story in our history to really help us understand that it's not wise. You even have to guard against what leadership or what leaders you lead. Because just like we see in today's time, majority of the so-called Israel out there, they want to rule by consensus. Look at the ratio. You look at the 12 spies. How many of the 12 spies were positive? Let's a minute. How many of the 12 spies were positive? Can anybody tell me? Out of the 12, how many were positive? Stop it, Olive, for people across. Okay, 2 were positive. So that means, look at that ratio. 2 out of 10? My goodness. But that ratio, you can take that and apply it even today. Look at the numbers in this room, and I'm not big on numbers. I mean, I can give flying food about some numbers, especially those that come to the room and those that don't come to the room. But when you look at today's time, out of all of Israel, now I know not everybody can come to the forum and this, that, the other, and Hakoin has teachers, he has students all over the world that never even touch the forum here in the Power Talk setting. But when you look at the ratio of all of Israel who are dispersed to the four corners of the earth, and you look at those that actually come in and have a, some kind of connection to the Kohen and the gate. I mean, and remember that ratio 2 to 10. Remember that ratio 10 to 2, however you want to look at it, 2 to 10 or 10 to 2. Now, I want to put that ratio out there because just like in today's majority of Israel, they roll with the consensus numbers. And they just have this. Oh, okay, well, we're going to take a vote. And whichever side gets the most votes, then that's what we're going to roll with when it comes to decrees, judgments, or when it comes to matter. We're going to roll with consensus. The persons with the bigger numbers are going to be the ones that, quote unquote, they think are right all the time. How many of you roll with that kind of consensus? You're going to roll with, oh, well, they have to be right because just based alone, it would be more advantageous for me to roll with the numbers, with the greater numbers, than to roll with those that may have lesser numbers. But that's how most people think. And they've been conditioned to think that way. Is that, oh, the bigger the numbers, the better. And the bigger the numbers, they have to be right. And if all of these 10 leaders are telling us not to, that we don't have a chance in hell to succeed, then these 10 leaders can't be wrong. And I guarantee you, this is what was going on amongst the clans as the murmuring and bickering and complaining cropped up. They were like, well, wait a minute now. And so then you have the unpopular 2 over here, the unpopular 2 over here that, oh, well, these guys, man, how are we going to go with their decision-making process when it's only 2 of them against the 10 guys over here telling us that we don't have a chance and we just grasshoppers and there's no way we're going to succeed? Great lesson to be learned on this level right here is that never roll with the consensus of the bigger numbers. If you guys were bound to roll with numbers, then you would have never become a part of Israel, or you would have never came back to your true belonging to the family. Because do you not know Israel is very small when it comes to numbers? We've always been small. We're small in number. I'll say it that way because Israel is totally not small. We're great. We're great. We're the greatest. But when you look at us in number, we're a very small nation. We're a piddly little nation over here that people, just because they see the numbers, will say, oh, we're just going to just roll over these people. They are like grasshoppers to us. But I'm no grasshopper, by the way, Mishpah. I'm a young whippersnapper, but I'm no grasshopper. I'm no grasshopper. I'm a lion, and I roar. How many lion and lionesses do we have in the room? So, don't see yourself as a grasshopper when you're a lion or a lioness. Don't see yourself as a grasshopper when you're an eagle and you soar high above all it, and you can see the little grasshoppers from way above, from the most highest, soar point that is out. But we just what is that people, people at that time, and you see it today in this time as well, is they're going to roll, or they're going to go with, or they're going to side with the bigger numbers. People. Oh, okay. Just because, I'll be right. How can all these people be wrong? And you may have heard people say this in your study of human nature as students. You heard people say that. Well, by golly, there's no way in hell they can be wrong. Look at all these people. You telling me all these people are wrong? Oh, hell yeah, I'm telling you, all those people are wrong. You telling me that they're doing it the wrong way? Are you telling me that all these people are making the wrong decision? Yeah, I'm telling you that all those people are making the wrong decision. Do you want to continue down that same path? I tell you, with the mentors that I keep on manifesting to myself, they're giving me so much great information about things that we've been taught wrong about. You know, things that we're doing wrong and we've been doing wrong. And I tell you, it's a beautiful thing to behold when you sit here and you these are men of renown, men who have had tasted success, still involved with success, men who are rich, men who have wealth, men who have generational wealth and have established generational wealth for themselves. They're telling you the insights and some of the secrets that are going on in their lives, and that can go on in our lives as well. Oh, we have twos coming up. Can I be heard? Can I be heard? I want to get a one. Want to make sure I'm coming. Yes, Shabbat Shalom, my son. So I think it's very, very important for us to understand these things. I'll give you one example. You know, the example with the house situation. Like people, you know, why do you think they call it a mortgage? I mean, people going to the bank like the bank is the all in all. When we have to have the mindset that we are the bank. You don't have to go to the bank, but if we are the bank, and we can be the bank if we so desire, but we've been conditioned that we have to follow the same old formula. Oh, you have to go to the bank and beg for money. You have to put 10 to 20% down. You have to have good credit and blah, blah, blah. You all know the story. You all know the story because it's an international type story. But these are the conditions. And then when I sit here and I listen to a real estate tycoon say, I hate banks, I'm like, that's like a shocker to me. I'm like, wait a minute now. Well, we've been told that we have to run to the banks like little slaves, like 50 little slaves. Oh, please give me your money. We have to run to the bank like beggars. When we don't have to. When we don't have to run to the bank like beggars. We don't have to do that, Miss Papa. Yet, that's what we've been taught. That's what we've been conditioned to learn and do, is to go to the bank and beg them for money. Oh, please, officer, please give me your money. I beg you. And what do they call it? What do they call it? A mortgage? Anybody ever examine that word? They sit there and they call it a mortgage. Why do they call it a mortgage? You ever thought about that for a minute? Mort. What does mort mean? Anybody look up the word mort and tell me what it means? No, I'm not going to die to the right, Oliver. I'm not going to sit here and die to what society, what most people are doing. Majority of the people, that's what they do. It's tradition for them to go to the bank. Mort, right there. You're right, Oliver. That is a French word. That is a French word. Mort means what? Dead. So, again, think about what we have to rethink. But again, in order for us to rethink, we have to be taught properly. There have to be proper leaders put in our way that we manifest to ourselves to help us rethink. That's what we're doing even as Israel, as we wake up as Israel, coming up. If you in this room had to rethink a lot of things. You had to rethink religion, right? You had to rethink your way of life, didn't you? It was a rethink process. But that only came and only occurred when the proper teacher was put before you to make you understand that, oh man, I need to rethink. I need to rethink a lot of things, right? There's a lot of things in my life that I need to rethink. A lot of things in my life. In the same way, in that aspect, with every choice and decision that you need to make, we need to rethink these things. We don't have to follow the same old status quo just because the numbers, everybody else is doing it this way. My mother bought a house this way, my grandfather bought a house this way, and blah, 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 blah. This is the way that you buy a house. And I'm looking at these millionaire, billionaire mentors of mine that are in real estate, and I'm saying, these guys don't care for the banks. Matter of fact, they become the bank. So they don't have to run to the banks. Actually, the banks are running to them, begging them, hey, you can borrow this money. How many of you would like that reaction from the banks? They not tearing your door down, telling you, hey, borrow money from us. And these are the same banks, when these guys were trying to make it, when they were out, understanding, what in life and starting a business in real estate, these were the same banks that rejected them over and over again. You don't qualify. You're not, we look at you. You don't meet the criteria. All this paperwork and tell you no. So we need to rethink a lot of things in our lives, and so that we can make the necessary changes to be beneficial to us, establishing a legacy. How many of you in this room believe and establish a legacy? I was never taught this by my parents, to establish a legacy. I was never taught this. To establish and leave a legacy. To leave something behind like our forefathers left behind. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But they left it behind for us in our holy books for us to learn from. To listen and to learn from. So that, number one, we don't make the same mistakes. And number two, that we can learn from the mistakes, the good, the bad, and the ugly that were done by our forefathers, by our patriarchs in our holy books. See, I don't see the Bible as this like storybook. I see it as a way of life and a tool that we can use to learn from and to really gain insight and to be successful from and to have an abundance of a life from. I learned all this from our holy books. All this is from our holy books, and that same God that doesn't change. Shabbat shalom, now Sean, ball, and from the same holy books that we can learn and glean everything from, and our desires. Here, okay, the papa phone, you go bye, you go mommy, you go bye, so that we can learn from. All right, now Sean talking and walking and throwing things around. Now, Baruch Hashem, I'm so happy. Okay, so that we can learn from this Paha. That's what our holy books are for. They're alive, but we have to make them alive. We have to decide within ourselves that this is real and it's not fake and it's not phony. If you don't believe me, I would encourage all of you to go watch documentaries all over the world that are proving that the Bible is real. It's actually real, and that these events that happened in the Bible were really real. Like the Christians that went to Saudi Arabia undercover. I think it was a hedge fund guy and a ex-policeman. These two Christian guys, they went to they went and found that they used the Bible and looked at the facts in the Bible and found that the holy mountain is in Saudi Arabia. These guys did it. They're Christian guys, and just like I applaud the real Mount Sinai, right? Lion Princess, you saw that documentary, I would suppose, as well. It's really real. So, if the Mount Sinai is real, then the people of Israel is real. I don't care what they're telling me on YouTube and El-Bad, right, Hakohi? So, I don't really care. And you know what? I give thanks and gratitude for Saudi Arabia for hiding and fencing up mountain the way they are, so people can't go there and make material commercialism out of it, and selling little trinkets and stuff of our holy mountain, commercializing it, just like they doing for the most part in Israel today. When I went, and I tell you what, when I went with Hakohi, and I'll tell you what else, I'm grateful and thankful to the government of Israel that they do go and pay homage to that the Roman garrison wall and totally distracting you from the true holy site that's plowed over and so peaceful. Baruch Hashem, where our temple's located. So I give thanks to them for that as well. So again, so that way our is preserved and is kept for a particular time. But the real people that need to know will know. And the real people that need to understand will understand, because it will come from within themselves. It's not going to come from without. They will have to, this belief, this feeling will come from within. And then when they see it with their eyes, and I'm telling you, I still have a visual of going and paying homage down there in Tel Arad. I'll never forget that experience down there in the south of Israel. Never forget that experience. And seeing the temple in ruins. I will never forget that experience. Never will I forget it. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And you could feel the wind just blowing against your ears, and you could see all these ruins of just big rocks that are they're just everywhere. And the little that was left of what a temple was and where everything was, I tell you, it was amazing. It was truly amazing. and without all the hustle and bustle of going to this wailing wall that they call it and putting all these papers in there and praying and giving petitions and blah 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 blah. So the whole 9 yards behind all that stuff. So that's just what it is today. That's just what it is today, and we have to get to that point and to where you have to believe. You really have to believe and learn from our patriarchs and matriarchs, because the holy books wasn't left to be some Bible, some story that you eat on Sunday and you extract a little bit of it and then you go on about your merry way. No, it's a way of life. It's the way we live. And I give gratitude and thanks to all these religions I think that are preserving our way of life and helping the world see. Because just like Akoin said in his lecture, the God of Israel is the God of the whole world, this whole earth, and the Milky Ways and the black holes and the galaxies and the universe. It's just that people have changed him in a certain way to where they have to come up with their own religion and their own gods behind that. And that's in our commandments that you all know. We've been forewarned about this a long time ago, that there will be other gods, and we just deal with them. You just deal with them. If it's going to make people happy to serve all these powers, so let them be happy doing that. We don't want to force the God of Israel on any person. But understand this, just like it said in our Torah, there's one Torah for a foreigner and for the people of the land. That's just what it is. It's just one Torah for the children of Israel and for the foreigners with them. And it's going to always be that way. This is why when we say we serve the one true powers, that's real. Because there's only one true powers. Everybody else is the phony baloney or the imitators out there. And that's just what it is. But when we look at we go back to the current conditions, and we go back to the point, I'm telling you, somebody needs to make a movie about these 12 spies. It'd be a great movie. Great movie. HD quality about the 12 spies. Because what I see here in this lesson here is what Israel, the God of Israel, and even Moses is trying to, you have to get to a point, and just like what Hakoin's lecture was about, to where your belief has to be seen. You have to be able to see it. They saw the pomegranates. They saw the figs. They saw the grapes. You had to be able to see that. So, the people were promised, over and over again, since they left Egypt, we're going to go to a land flowing with milk and honey. We're going to go to a land flowing with milk. Yeah, it is one thing. But to actually be able to see it, touch the grapes, smell the grapes, eat the grapes, then it becomes real. Right? Then it becomes real. So do you see, Hakoin's lecture is played out right here in the story, in our history about the 12 spies. Because you have to get to a point, and just like Hakoin talked about the different gestational times and the different animals, there's a gestational time for, whatever you're birthing. Whatever that is. How many of you birthing something right now? You're birthing a business. You're birthing a relationship. I wanted Natan, but he didn't come yesterday. It took a minute for my son to get here, and I'm grateful for that, because that time in between, I'm going to add to what Hakoin was talking about in his lecture. There are processes, but there are stages to everything. Because I can remember going to the doctor with my wife, every about month. We've gone about like once a month or every couple of weeks. We would go to the doctor. We're looking at ultrasound, and we're seeing the development and the stages of Nakshan becoming from this little piddly old little bean. And then now I see his little fingers wiggle. How many of you reminisce and you remembering these experiences? You see his little fingers. All of a sudden he's got fingers, and then he's got toes, and then all of a sudden we're going to find out what his sex is. Find out he's got a little he's got a little pecker sticking up there in the book of Shem. I was so happy because I knew that's what I wanted. I knew that was going to happen to Book of Shem. So he's got a little pecker, and he's pointing at his little pecker for me, and saying, because I told him, I said, "Now, Sean, we go in here and do this now. You need to make it clear who and what you are." You need to make it clear of your manhood. Sure enough, Nachshon didn't fail me. I'm telling you, I'm going to show it to you one day, Akko. And he sit there, because we made a DVD of it. And he's sitting there, and he's his little fingers, and he's pointing down to it, and he's actually touching his little private parts down there, his manhood. I'm like, okay. So he's letting the world know. And then the woman in there, she's like, I've never seen a baby do that before. I was like, okay, there's a first time for everything, lady. So, but again, so we have to, there's stages to everything. So then before you know it, Nachshon, I mean, he's full grown in my wife's tummy. He's moving around and, and he responds to sounds and music and then he's the birth of God. Go see it. And he's born and I can hold him in my arms. It's just a beautiful thing. So just like that process, everything that you want, but just like it said, quoted in the holy books, well, in the New Testament it talks about, faith without works is dead. Christian love quote that faith without works is dead. So there's works that have to take place in between that. The first thing you probably need to do is get as experience in a particular business you want to get in, so that they can mentor you and teach you about the ropes. Okay, stage one is that, okay, how do I formulate a business? Oh, you have to have an LLC to protect yourself. Whoa, LLC, what is that? Okay, so what are the steps in getting the LLC? There's stages to it. Okay, you have to fill out this paperwork, you have to circulate this amount of money, you have to come to an LLC. Now you recognize, then what do you have to do? I tell you, Mr. Hall, one of the greatest things that I've learned this past 6 days of labor from one of our mentors is that, and I would encourage you all to really look into this, is to establish a trust. How many of you know about trust? Anybody? The wealthy will teach you, the wealthy will tell you, they have trust. Trust. You hear this, a wealthy person will pass away, they say, yeah, and his trust was turned over to so-and-so. And so-and-so is the beneficiary of his trust. They put everything in a trust. And believe you me, this will be beneficial for every one of you in this room to consider. Consider putting things in trust. You don't know much about them? Get with somebody that does, that can teach you about the benefits of establishing a trust. You see, we're not only talking about you creating wealth for yourself or you manifesting wealth for yourself. We're talking about you being able to secure that wealth and make that wealth generational wealth to where it continues. Because how many of you heard stories about, wealthy, well-off people, they pass on, and then all of their wealth is squandered after they pass on to the next life. Before you know it, the government's got a hold of it, you paying a death tax and blah, 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 the businesses have been evaporated, members are, up in arms and fighting over this, that, the other, and the third. It happens all the time. And it's not just those, people with major businesses that run major companies, but it happens with people who, who maybe have left a little amount of money, to their relatives, and they want to make sure that the grandchildren get blah 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 blah. I'll go ahead and put up that Ron LeGrand has videos on it, Properties and Trust. Look up Ron LeGrand. That'll be benefit to you on Facebook, or you're listening on YouTube. It's Ron, R-O-N, LeGrand, L-E-G-R-A-N-D. Look him up. I mean, this man gives a lot of great advice on how we can protect ourselves. And just like, one of these persons that are, I would call him one of the wise men, that Mr. Garcia there in Mexico, he said it himself. He said, you got to be able to take care of yourself. Don't look for the banks to take care of you. You take care of yourself. And that's just not with your own bodies, but with everything, your businesses, with your families, is that we have to take care of ourselves. That's very important. Ourselves. And so what Ron talks about a lot is assuming the responsibility and protecting ourselves when it comes to our assets. And all of you, that should be in your application. is that you are owners, you are definitely owners of many assets. Because assets you're going to leave behind, that's going to create and perpetuate, propel that generational wealth. Baruch Hashem. So you want assets. When you look at yourself right now and you ask yourself the question, do I have any assets? Ask yourself that question. Do I have any assets right now? Because that's what you want to create. That's what you want to manifest is assets. Assets. Things that you can get that's going to circulate money for you continuously. See, a lot of folks don't think about assets. They think about getting, when you buy a flat screen TV, does it circulate monies for you monthly, yearly? Does it do that? You see? And so this is how the rich think. They think, and Hakoim talked about that. He said, well, you know, they talk about buying properties and they want to buy more properties, they want to do this, they want to do this with their farmland. See, they want to do things with their assets that's going to even make them more assets, more valuable, more wealthy. It's going to circulate wealth. And you can be sleeping and it's doing it. You can be on vacation and it's doing it. You can be taking a shower and it's doing it. Baruch Hashem. See, this is the thought process that we need to have. But we're not taught these things. When you look at the consensus, they'll tell you to run to a bank. They'll tell you, oh no, don't bother getting assets. You're just putting yourself in debt. And debt is bad. How many of you been taught that? Oh, debt. Oh, don't get in debt. That's bad. You want to be free and clear, and you don't want any debt. No, you do want debt. Assets are debts. You just not paying them off. Somebody else is paying them off for you, or they're paying you. Your debts are paying you monthly, yearly, annually. Right now, Sean? Yeah, the Papa there. So we have to consider these things going forward. Is that we want assets. Eddie's is saying a debt on an asset that pays you. Oh, indeed. Yeah, Papa. Yeah. So indeed, so we need to be taught about these things. We talk about currency. Yeah, Papa's going to be there in a minute. We talk about currency and we talk about circulation, and that's just what it is. These guys, these gurus, these real estate gurus, they're talking about things that Hakoim is teaching us here already. You know, they just call it something different. They call it cash flow. What do we call it? Circulation. Think about it. Eddie's, I know you in currencies. That's the same thing. Currencies, they talk about, circulation. You want to circulate. Currencies, what? They move. They circulate up and down, but they circulate. Currency. And that's the same thing when we talk about what Hakoim is teaching us about. He's talking about circulation. When you circulate your money, you circulate your money into a flat screen TV. I mean, how does that circulate? What does that do? Well, does the flat screen give you back something? So we need to change the way we think about. We need to rethink the way we think about monies and our relationship with money. Some of us have a bad relationship with money because we talk money down. Oh man, I'm busted and disgusted. Oh, I'm broke. Well, guess what? You done talk money away from you instead of talking money to you. Instead of establishing a great relationship with money. And that's what we need to consider going forward. We need to consider what the masses are telling us. Oh man, consensus says, well, I was talking to my leaders to put my money in a CD and just let it gain at 1%, and then in 100 years, then I'll have a lot of money. I'm like, my goodness. Lesson I learned from a mentor. I tell you, very, very great lesson. It really makes sense. We have to come out of that thought process of saving money. You don't say whatever you do, don't save money. What you need to say is that you're storing money. That is beautiful. You're storing money. Because when you say you're storing money, then you're storing it away for a particular project, particular thing. Like these guys in Pakistan, these big wigs that are over there doing real estate deals and matriculating wealth on top of wealth on top of wealth, that's just the way they think. Storing money away so that they can purchase another project, another piece of property, another piece of materialistic something that's going to assist them in still creating more and more wealth for themselves and manifesting more and more wealth. So you store money away so that you can use it for that rainy day, right? Do you get what I mean, Eddie? Don't save money, store it. Store it for a particular, that your money will have a purpose for, not for a 1% interest. No. You want to store your money away for what? You can put it into something, put it in some stock, put it in some currency where you're going to take it, and you're going to take that $100 and make $200 on it. You're going to take that, $200 and make $1,000 off of that. According to store it in a piece of land, a property, and stocks. Yeah, you store it away. You don't save it. When you save it, it's just going to sit there. And the moth's going to eat away at it. No, you want to store it away for a particular mission. So you want to store it away for a particular mission or for a purpose. And we have to start thinking this way, Mishpah, because this is proper thinking. If you want to advance and you want to have that abundance of a life, it's not going to happen with the consensus thought. Well, the thought that what everybody's telling you or you have been taught, that's all wrong. You have to come with the mindset that I need to be retaught. And that's what our court has been teaching us for the past couple of years, is that we have to be retaught. We have to be re-educated. All of that education you got in college, it's for what? For nothing. So you can go flip burgers at McDonald's? All of that education you went through, the so-called education, what has it got you? Just one big bill? When the true education lies within you, this is where the education really starts. It's not within a university somewhere. It's really not. But because the masses tell you, you have to go to university. This one guru, this Grant Cardone dude, even this other, he didn't even finish college. Well, yes, he did. He said he finished with an accounting degree. But he couldn't get out and get a job. He ended up selling cars because he got an accounting degree, and then there was no jobs out there in accounting. So what did he do? He went and started selling cars. So again, like Kefa saying, don't go get a university degree. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a university degree is not for everybody, and a university degree is not the all in all. If you don't have a plan, and if you don't specialize in a particular field that's in demand, then my goodness, a university degree is worthless. It's going to leave you in debt, and you won't be able to circulate anything that way. So we need to reconsider and rethink. That's very important. That's the first step. You have to be willing to go against the current. If the current's going one way, you have to be willing to say, no, I'm going to take my chances and go the other way. Just because everybody else is doing that way, that doesn't mean it's correct. It just doesn't mean it's correct. And you got these, people these days are making $1 million, and they're not going to university, but they have an idea. And they took their money that they stored away and they placed it in an idea. Or they got assistance from somebody else who's been storing money away, waiting for an idea that they can invest their money in to make it circulate and grow even more. That's how Ethereum got started. I was watching this documentary on Ethereum. This young dude, he was 18 years old and he created Ethereum. My goodness. But he had to go and he had to source income to fund him because he didn't have any. And he used Bitcoin. And people started giving him Bitcoin to fund his project. And those people that did, my goodness, they became wealthy instantly. And there are ways to source money. And the gurus out there will tell you if you get with a good one. But again, you get what you pay for. And I would encourage you all to understand this day. You can invest in many things out there. You can invest in a home. You can invest in cars. You can invest in a relationship. But the number one thing Rabbi Kefa want to tell you today to invest in is invest in yourself. Never, never, never see it negative investing in yourself. You can't go wrong investing in yourself. I'm going to say that again. Invest in yourself, Mishpah. Don't see that as a negativity. That should be the first thing you invest in. How many of you in this room love yourself? How many of you do? How many of you in this room love yourself? You say, Rabbi Kefa, yes, I love myself. I do love myself. I do. I love myself. Well, invest in yourself. And don't pass up yourself to invest in other things. Because when you invest in yourself, then you're going to invest in other things. Because you invested in yourself. Make yourself your number one investment. Number one investment. Now, you have to ask self, what does self want to do? What makes self happy? What gives self peace? What gives self love and joy? We must establish that relationship with ourselves. And this all falls back into the current conditions. Some of us, and a lot of times, we need to change our conditions are always evolving. Because we're going through the stages of changing our conditions. You see? If I say I want to be a millionaire today, that doesn't mean the $1 million go tomorrow, but there are stages, and I'm starting to see that there's, man, I have different avenues now. Because one of my affirmations is that I'm a multi-millionaire. So multiple channels of millions. You get it? Stock market, currency market, real estate market. See, avenues. And one thing that I see common amongst my mentors is that, you know what they say? Don't put your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's a good rule to live by. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. So, what does that mean? That we need to diversify. Invest in yourself, but diversify. Have more than one favorite. Have a couple of favorites. Things that you want to do. Service that you want to provide. Help that you want to give out to humanity. Different avenues that you like. Not because the masters say you have to go out and do it, but it's because you want to do it. And in that way, you'll be persistent and you'll stick with it because that's what you want. If you want to be happy, then you'll do the thing that's going to make you happy. Those things may differ from what makes me happy, but you'll do the things that want to make you happy. But in your current conditions, you can't say, well, oh, I'm happy. One of your affirmations is that, I am continuously happy. It is definitely true. I am happy continuously. But yet, during your day, all you think about is hatred. Oh, I hate this person. Then you're fooling yourself. And one of the great lessons that we can learn from the 12 spies is that the people were hoodwinked and bamboozled to the point to where they rode with a consensus. And consensus was basically calling the creator of all things a lie. A liar. Well, you lied to us. I'm paraphrasing. Well, you lied to us. When we left Egypt, you kept promising this land flowing with milk and honey and that we would be in that land. But wait a minute, you lied to us. Because these men are bigger and we're grasshoppers and blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute. So you're basically calling the creator of all things, the God of Israel, you're calling him a liar. That's what basically was going on here. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, we see these grapes. Oh, we do see them. We smell them. Matter of fact, I had a taste of one of them on the slide. Oh, it tastes good too. But wait a minute. You say we're going to conquer this land, but these people, they bigger than us, they stronger than us, they giants, and we just little piddly grasshoppers. So wait a minute. You breached the contract. You lied to us. Well, we heard these 12 leaders. No, these 10 leaders. These 10 leaders told us, there's no way we can beat these people. There's no way in hell we're going to beat these people. You just see how big these people are. Now, in their defense, they were told by Moses to find out about are the people weak? Are they strong? That was part of their mission, Mishpahah. That was part of their mission. Was to go in there, and Moses told them, hey, y'all go in there, and y'all make sure. Oh, look, it's right there in Numbers chapter 13. Read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hebrew Scrolls. Look at verse 18. He said, in verse 18, he said, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many. They was told to go in there and do that. Well, hey, we just doing what Moses said, go in there and check on the people. But they weren't told to go in there and say, well, wait a minute, we saw these people, and my goodness, we grasshoppers to these people, and there is no way that we can defeat these people. Because when we look at Numbers chapter 13, look at verse 31. But the men that went up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. What? That's you done stepped beyond your leadership role in doing that and saying that. Because basically you call it the God of Israel a liar after he had dealt with Pharaoh, the superpower of Egypt, took them down there. You're going to say, oh man, we can't deal with these warriors, these tall dudes. Well, there's no way we can defeat them. What's your current condition? You see? Not, okay, well, hey, we already saw what the mighty right hand of the Most High, we even sang songs about it, Mishpahah. We sang songs about what the mighty right hand of the Most High did. He split the sea of reeds. There's no way we can defeat them. There is just no way in hell that we're going to defeat these people. It's not happening. It's not happening. For they are stronger than we. Are you kidding? These are 10 leaders. And what? Everybody jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, man. Oh, they already started. But wait, before that happens, look at Numbers chapter 13, verse 30. Read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hebrew Scrolls. And Caleb silenced the people before Moses, and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Baruch Hashem. Make that a part of your daily life, your daily speech. For I am well able to overcome. I am well able to overcome. I am well able to overcome. You see the difference between positivity and negativity in your decisions. I am well able to overcome. Or you, oh no, they're stronger than we. Oh no, your dollar is stronger than my dollar because my dollar is not backed by gold anymore, so your dollar is blah 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 and blah blah blah. Oh, but your dollar is just so strong. But my dollar is weak. I'm the weakling of the dollars. Are you freaking kidding me? My dollar is strong and I'm well able to overcome. I'm well able to overcome. I am well able to overcome. That was the consensus of 2. The consensus of 10 was, oh no man, they're stronger than we are. There's no way we're going to defeat these people. You're basically calling the God of Israel a liar. He promised you the land flowing with milk and honey. You coming out of Egypt. You knew you had the land flowing with milk. You knew it by word. But by deed, oh, we can't do it. There's no way we can do it. But I tell you this day, Mishpahah, I am well able to overcome in this life. Whatever I desire for myself, I am well able to overcome and to be successful. And to manifest it. It can happen. Time is irrelevant to me. It can happen and it will happen. But I just got to be willing to go through the stages. See, they couldn't get past stage 1. Oh, they were already defeated. Not, okay. You know, Caleb was like, come on, let's go over there right now and open up a can of whoop ass. That's what Waterboy says. Come on, I'm going to have to open up a can of whoop ass. Well, that's what Waterboy says. If it's good enough for Waterboy, then it's good enough for the Israelites. They can open up a can of whoop ass. That's what Caleb. Let's go over there right now and handle business. He's so excited. Right, Rabbi Zachariah? He's super excited. He's like, hey, come on, let's go do it right now. Well, why do we have to wait? We done saw the grapes, we saw the figs. I'm down with some pomegranate juice. Let's go over there and take the land right now. He said, Caleb said, I'm thirsty with some pomegranate juice right now. Let us go up at once and possess it. Possess it, Mishpahah, at once. But we are well able to overcome it. That's verse 30 of Numbers chapter 13. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Juxtaposition between, you know, positivity and just downright negative. Current conditions. Which side you want to put yourself on? Because both sides, whatever side you land on, Mishpahah, both sides going to have consequences to them. You see? Positive or negative. See, because if you say, well, Rabbi Kefa, I don't know how to analyze my current condition. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to analyze my condition. If you don't know how to analyze what condition you're in right now, just look at the consequences. Look at your state of being right now. Look at where you are right now. This is what a great lesson for us to learn with the 12 spies. This is a beautiful lesson that humanity can learn from. That's why I'm totally surprised that there hasn't been a movie put out by the 12 spies yet. I tell you, I'm totally surprised. Maybe that's for one of you aspiring producers in the room right now, movie producers and aspiring movie producers in the room. Look like everybody going back to the movies, right, Akoheen? How about you look at AMC and tell me if everybody not trying to go back to the movies? You don't have to own AMC theater. You buy some stock in AMC and you smiling right now. I tell you, AMC is on a tear. It is on a tear. You tell me people are not going back to the movies? So you aspiring movie producers, movie makers, listening via YouTube, or you on Facebook listening, I tell you, you want to do a good movie, do a movie on the 12 Spies. It has everything you want in it. You know, intrigue, espionage, lying and deceit, backbiting. But it also at the same time has the true essence of faith and belief and action. I tell you, it would make a great, great, great movie. But this is what we have to examine going forward, Mishpahah. If you don't know your condition, then look at your consequence. Look at your situation right now. Then you can tell, okay, well, my current conditions, you see, it's all about, like our queen talked about, it's your state. How do you see yourself right now? You see yourself as that queen and that king, that prince in your kingdom and establishing your kingdom. Man, I'll tell you, I've been watching these documentaries on the rise of China. I'm like, how the hell did China come up so fast? You know how they did it, Mishpahah? I'm going to leave you in suspense. Go watch some documentaries on how China rose and how China is the number 2 superpower. How'd they do it? I mean, these are people at one time, they were eating their own relatives because they didn't have any food. But look where they are today. Look at where they are today. How did they do it? I'm going to tell you in one word, asset. They went out and began to acquire assets. Assets. You don't believe me? They have a lot of assets here in North America. I don't know about France, Oliver, but China is holding a lot of assets in North America. And a lot of other countries as well. I'm going to tell you what they did in Pakistan with that port. I watched a documentary on that port, It's beautiful. I tell you, they're really doing their business. That Pakistan is getting ready to, woo-wee, with that Silk Road, they're getting ready to come into a lot of wealth. They get ready to come into a lot of wealth. But I was watching a documentary, and then a lot of the local people don't like that. I mean, this port that they're building is under super guard right now. I tell you what. It's under, they guard this thing like no man's business, because a lot of the people, again, because of consensus, they're saying, oh man, the fishermen are complaining because they want to take away the beach land and put a road that's going to go directly to the port and blah, 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 taking them out of their particular occupation. You see, but what the people don't understand, now it's time for them to evolve. It's time for them to come stop fishing for fish and pick up another occupation. You see? But the people are complaining. Not all of them, but there's some people that are complaining. That are fighting against this port and don't want the Chinese there, blah, 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 blah. It's because why? They not really, what we talking about, Mr. Hart? They not willing to relearn, to re-educate themselves. Because they've been taught for so long. My father was a fisherman, grandfather was a fisherman, great-great-grandfather was a fisherman, so I'm going to be a fisherman for my life. They weren't taught, okay, now I need to rethink. Now I need to evolve. As the periods are evolving, I need to evolve with the periods so that I can be successful, so that I can survive. Otherwise, I'm going to get swallowed up. They're in Djibouti. They're in Ethiopia. The Chinese are everywhere. And you know what they're doing? And these acts, you don't believe that, that port there in Pakistan is going to pay dividends to the Chinese people? Oh, believe me, it is. You see, because the China don't think for now. They think in long-term wealth, long generational wealth. I mean, you're talking about eons of just wealth coming in from this port. My goodness. Same way Ethiopia's complaining. The farmers, oh man, the Chinese are coming in, they're taking up all of our land. But they don't see, oh man, maybe I need to get in on this innovation. Stop being a farmer and now, put on a suit or something and pick up another patient that's going to propel me going forward and take care of my family, feed my family. See, they're not thinking like that. They're too busy complaining and moaning and griping. Oh no, it's coming in. The Chinese doing this, Chinese doing that. Then you need to get on board. Are you going to ride the wave or be engulfed by the wave? Which one you want to do? Which one you want to do? According said, Russia got in also. Oh, everybody needs to get on the train. You need to get in or you're going to get left behind. Are you going to get left behind? What are you going to do? Oh no, we're going to just complain. You're going to complain and you're going to get left behind. That's what happened to our forefathers in our history as we read it right now. They never saw the land flowing with milk and honey. They missed that mark. They died in the desert. Why? It's because they complained. They kept complaining and instead of what? Instead of relearning. Okay. Then I know what the God of Israel did in Egypt. I'm going to trust and believe. We're going to train the army. We're going to go in there and we're going to take them out. We're not going to take them out the conventional way because we have powers on our side. So I can't think like everybody else is thinking. You know what I mean? I can't think just because everybody else saying we're going to lose. We already won. Look. You see, none of them 10, they didn't go back and think for a minute. Look, man, this is the same God that destroyed Pharaoh and took down that major economy there in Egypt. Matter of fact, that economy was built upon me. I have the ability to do the same thing. Why do I have to do it for somebody else when I can do it for myself? Why do I have to make... Anybody ever ask yourself this question? Why am I sitting here with this company making somebody else rich? Why come I can't be rich too? But yet I'm sitting here working this 9 to 5 and I'm making somebody else rich when I can work 5 to 9 and make myself rich. You understand what I'm saying? People don't think like that. Oh, I've been with Walmart forever. Well, you're making Walmart rich. What is Walmart doing for you? You're sitting there working for Walmart 80 years and you're making Walmart rich. But what has Walmart done for you? How about you go and make your Walmart? How about you go out and make your millions? Well, I can't. See, people can't think past that. Why? It's because of their current condition. Their current condition is poverty, so that's all they can think about is poverty. Their current condition is oh, I'm just going to squeak by. So guess what they do? They just squeak by. Their current condition is hand to mouth. So guess what? That's what they are, hand to mouth. So it's the consequences. You see, Mishpahah, everything that we have the ability to do within ourselves. But we have to be willing to retrain and re-educate and relearn things and take action upon them. There's stages. Man, I'm seeing the stages in my life just unfold. Doors just keep opening up all over the place. And you know what? I'm jumping in those doors. I'm taking opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. Oh, but what if it fails, Rabbi? Opportunity after opportunity. I don't sit there and think about failure. I sit there and think about what I'm going to learn from this. What I'm going to gain from this. How is this going to help me circulate more monies and more monies? And how is this going to help me? Man, I'm going to sit there and look at Nakshan and I'm like, man, that's motivation. That's how you give me more fuel and more motivation to get out here and do these things. When I look at my 20-month-old, and I'm like, wow, Baruch Hashem. Motivation to not just sit on my laurels and say, oh, I'm satisfied. No. But to see that, man, my goodness. And you know how Kohen, the light bulb came on when somehow Kohen said in his lecture when he talked about, you know, yeah, you guys ever sit and think about, well, all these other people made these millions, or these made millionaires. How come I can't be the made millionaire? When all these other people that already did it, they made millionaires. And they made millionaires and made billionaires. How come I can't be that? Why? What's the difference between me and them? Huh? Drive, motivation, desire, maybe. Willingness to do what? Willingness to try. Discipline. Never giving up, even in the face of no. I mean, I'm listening to my mentors. They're telling stories like, yeah, man, I was rejected here, rejected there, rejected, but that didn't stop me. Rejected here and rejected there, but that didn't stop me. It didn't stop me. No just meant yes. Baruch Hashem. This no means that somebody else gonna tell me yes. See, when you start to think like that, most they told me no, Rabbi, so I'm going to give up, Rabbi. They told me no. I've been told no about 20 times. Okay, go to the 21st time and they're going to tell you yes. You see this? You see, it's, again, what are we talking about? Current condition. What condition are you in right now? What condition are you in right now? It doesn't matter what environment I put myself in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what environment. I'm going to always be positive. And if you don't want to hear all this positivity, then you're going to leave. You'll get away from it real quick. You see, because everybody want to come with problems, and they want to heap upon you their problems and problems and problems. But I'm here about solution and solution and solution. Oh, they told you no problem. The next person will tell you yes. Oh, don't give up. That just means there's a better job for you out there. Like, what the hell? I can't even, you see, their current conditions. See, they can't think and see the road for the trees. They can't get on the journey for all the trees. They can't go down that smooth road because all the trees that they see in their way. Oh, I can't do this, Rabbi. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't not do that. Yes, you can. But you got to believe that you can. You got to be like Caleb and say what? You say it like Caleb. Well able to overcome. Numbers chapter 13, verse 30. I am well able to overcome. It is definitely true. I am well able to overcome continuously. Baruch Hashem. When you begin to tell you go to bed at night talking about some well able to overcome, guess what you're going to dream about? Because at night, either people either having dreams or they're having nightmares. Where you at? Either you're having dreams about accomplishing things and doing great things, or you're having nightmares about, oh man, Freddy Krueger's coming at me with a knife and he's stabbing me in the back and I'm running and I just keep running, or I'm falling off a cliff, Rabbi, and I just keep falling and falling. What kind of dreams are that? Man, because you go to bed and you're not thinking about well able to overcome. You're thinking about the Freddy Krueger movie that you just watched and you fell asleep watching it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But that's what it is, really. So, again, we have the ability to change them, and you don't need medication, and you definitely don't need to see no psychiatrist or anything. You just got to be willing to, you got to tell yourself, I'm willing to change. I'm willing to re-educate. I'm willing to rethink. Because we've been fed to think with the consensus. Oh, man. They say that, I'm just unable to do anything. I can't be successful because of my demographics. Because of the color of my skin. Because my hair is nappy. I can't succeed. Oh, don't believe all of that. Fill yourself up with positivity. And you can take any negative and change it around. Oh, but they keep rejection? Oh, man. Rejection is just a reflection of positivity. Rejection is just a reflection of acceptance. Oh, you keep on rejecting me because one day I will get accepted. Don't. Fear, oh my goodness. Fear is in the rearview mirror. Because you're ferocious. You're a lion. And you never give up. And you never quit. You're not a quitter. But it's whatever you want, Mishpachah. That's when you boil it all down, it's whatever you want. Not what people want for you. Because as you see in our history, with the 12 spies, what people want for you is not good. Don't always go with what the majority of the people want for you, because the majority of the people are not always right. And majority of the time they're wrong. Because you're not a majority, you're yourself. That's what you are. I'm getting ready to close. But let's close with this, because I want to talk about our fringes that we wear in the four corners of our garments, men. Look at Numbers chapter 15, verse 39. And it shall be to your fringe. Now, in our holy books, the fringes come in after they stone a man for breaking the Sabbath because he wants to pick up sticks. And so now, we're told here in Numbers chapter 15, verse 39 in the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, that it shall be to you for a fringe, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of Yahweh and do them, that you seek not after your own heart or your own eyes. Wow. That you seek not after your own heart or your own eyes. Why were we told this right here? That you seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you go a-whoring. My goodness, Mishpachah. Look at verse 40 of Numbers chapter 15. That you may remember to do all my commandments and be holy to your power. Look at verse 41. I am Yahweh, your power, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the land of Egypt, to be your power. I am Yahweh, your power. Baruch Hashem. What a way to close this Parsha. Baruch Hashem. But when I was reading that, it brought me back to Yeshua's time. Fast forward to Yeshua, Ben Yosef, Yahushai, Yahushim, Yahusaki, Yahushua, whatever you want to pronounce it. Jesus, Yahweh. It brought me fast forward to Yeshua's time. And I remember when the Pharisees, the experts in the Torah, I always question them. But I remember particularly in Matthew chapter 22, read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth Prophetic Scrolls, when Matthew chapter 22 started at verse 34. But when the Pharisees had heard that he meaning Yeshua, had put down the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Look at verse 35. Then one of them, who was an expert in the Torah, asked him a question, testing him, saying, Rabbi, which is the greatest commandment in the Torah? Look at Matthew chapter 22, verse 37. Yeshua said to him, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. And you shall love Yahweh your power with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. Baruch Hashem. Matthew chapter 22, verse 38. This is the first and great commandment. Now, remember the fringes that we just talked about in Numbers chapter 15, right? Now, The Pharisees asked him, what is the greatest commandment in the Torah? I want you to remember this, men, when you're wearing your donning your fringes, and they hanging on the four corners of your garment, and you got them, tucked in or tucked out, however you rolling with them. And then Yeshua goes on to say, and the second is like to it, that you love your neighbor as yourself. That you love your neighbor as yourself. Now, I'm going to close with this, but I think this is very important for us to keep examining and always ask ourselves, and those in our circle of influence and those as students of human nature, this is one of the first questions that you need to ask, folks, is truly, do you love yourself? Love yourself. What is self? That's a subconscious, and most folks never connect with, unfortunately, as they go through this journey of life. Is they never connect with their subconscious. They never connect. Like I talked about, they go through this whole life, zombies. They never connect with themselves. To love your neighbor, and this is why they don't love their neighbor. You can't even get past the love the neighbor part because they don't even love themselves, and that's why you see in the consequences of their current conditions is that they run around hating people, hate this, hate that, angry, upset, mad, frustrated. Why? It's because they never got to the root cause of the whole matter, is themselves. I would encourage you this day, Mishpah, is to focus on yourself, your current condition, yourself, so you can begin to love yourself. You can begin to have a relationship with yourself. And you can tell yourself, you don't have to go with what consensus says, because your conditions are based upon what self desires, what self wants, what self want to manifest. It's all by yourself. What you desire. Understand, they may not come tomorrow, just like Cody talked about in his lecture, but I would encourage you all to be on guard and to be aware of the stages that are opening up to you. The stage, like these different doors and these different avenues that are opening up to you to get to the ultimate goal of that manifestation. Remember, there's steps, there's stages that you have to go through. You have to, you birthing that manifestation. Embryonic stage, I don't know where you're at. But again, always be looking for those avenues that's going to open up to get you to final destination, which is manifestation of that particular desire. You see? See, if you miss those stages, and if you miss those doors, if you reject the door and never open that door, then, what is that going to do with the process of your stages to get to the ultimate goal? That's going to hinder you, right? It's going to slow you up. So always take that opportunity. Jump on it. Jump on it. Because that, and some of you not jumping on it. You're not jumping up, and that's the next step to your evolution, to the birthing. But you're not doing it. You're not doing it. And you don't jump on it. You don't take that action. Faith without works is dead. That's what it says. So you got to work it. And when that door opens, you got to go into it. Well, I'm thinking about see, that's your problem, current condition. Where's your thought at? I don't understand how people can say they love God. They have this love for God, the first commandment, the love for God. But then, let's finish up with this, because then Yeshua goes on to say, in Matthew chapter 22, verse 40, on these two commandments hangs all the Torah and the prophets. My goodness! That's a heavy statement. On these two commandments hang the Torah. Oh, I love the Torah, I love God. But you hate yourself. You don't even have a relationship with yourself. And then you treat your neighbor, you and your neighbor having a feud, like the Beverly Hillbillies. You're having this feud where you shoot one another, shoot them down with words, cussing them down. But yet, oh, I love the Torah and the prophets. Who you fooling? You want to talk about lie? You're deceiving yourself. You're lying to yourself. It's to love your neighbor as yourself. Most folks don't connect with self. It's unfortunate. be grateful, Mishpah, and we have the Kohen in the gate to connect us with ourselves. That subconscious, that now we are conscious of ourselves. And the world becomes our box of chocolate, our oyster, our whatever you want it to be. Steak and steak and egg, whatever you want to call it, whatever. But it starts with we gotta love ourselves. So when you don those ZZs, my goodness, you remember that. In the morning when you put your ZZs on and you say your petition for your ZZs in the morning, you remember that. You remember. Is that, man, before I can love my neighbor, I gotta love myself. Much less, let me not even talk about loving the Most High. If I can't love myself, where's my love for the Most High that created self? That created me. That called me forth in this particular time. For this particular time. To do great and marvelous things. Greater than Yeshua did. You will do. Baruch Hashem. You can do if you desire to do. My goodness. But it all starts within. And it all starts with us doing what? Looking at our current condition. And we got to be honest with ourselves. If we can't be honest with nobody else in the whole of this world, be honest with yourself and your relation with yourself. Love yourself, thus you will love your neighbor, and then the love of God is already there. Baruch Hashem. Because the proof is in the pudding. It's quite hypocritical for you to cut down the Joneses and then say, oh, you love God. And the Joneses looking at you like, wait a minute. If this love that you have for your God tells you to hate me, then I want to be far away from you. You see? But the Joneses, remember, were created by the same Creator. Were called forth just like you were. Same DNA. Just they have different choices that they made. So on that note, we'll wrap it up for the Shabbat. I'll say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom to all of you, Mishpah. You go out and you do great and marvelous things these next 6 days of labor ahead. Safe travels to you, our Kohen. I know we'll be in touch all the time as usual. But you guys keep Mishpah. There's nothing that can stop you. I tell you, the markets are starting to turn around. Eddies, I don't know if you're noticing that. Markets are starting to come around now, cranking up again for another big run. So, look forward to that. And we look forward to great and marvelous things happening for each and every one of us. If you look forward to great and marvelous things happening, what's your current condition? You see? What's your current condition? So let's study that going forward. And remember, just like Caleb said, and I'm gonna leave us with this because I'm making that affirmation. I am well able to overcome. It is definitely true. I am well able to overcome continuously. Baruch Hashem. It is definitely true. I am well able to overcome continuously. So there's nothing that can stop you from doing whatever you do. No giant. There is no giant that can stop you. There is no wall that can stop you, Mishpah. Talk about walls, man. Our forefathers, we have the knowledge of walls. Our forefathers built walls. Come on, man. We know about the materials. Come on, man. Wall can't stop you. Allow things to stop. And look, be attuned to the doors that are opening for you for that next stage. Because there are doors that are always opening. Whether you go through those doors or not, that's going to be on you. But you have to be attuned. You have to have an ear and an eye for those doors, and an ear and an eye for opportunity. So when that opportunity comes, boom, you jump on it. Boom, you jump on it, and you don't look back. And well, what if this? Don't worry about that. What if? You just do. Yael saying, we build ladders and tunnels. Baruch Hashem. That's right. Ladders and tunnels, however you want to do it. Go over it, go under it. Go through it if you want to. Use your energy and go through the wall. However you want to do it. But again, a helicopter, I don't know, whatever you want to do. You have the ability. It's within you. Don't ever doubt yourself. Love yourself. Make a relationship with yourself. Uphold and strengthen yourself. And you have the whole family to help you. We all in this together. Shema Yisrael. Yahweh Achenu, Yahweh Achad. Yahweh is one. We're one. And that's what we always be. But we got to stick this together, and we got to do this together. And we leaving nobody behind, Mishpahah, unless you want to get left behind. I'm not going to force you to come on with us. Unless you want to get left behind, then you go behind. If not, we move forward. And we'll continue to move forward from strength to strength to strength to strength, Mishpahah. So on that note, we'll wrap it up for this Shabbat. I say Shabbat Shalom and Shalom Shalom. Again, Mishpahah. And welcome back to the East, Mishpahah, Hakoyim. Baruch Hashem.
Todah for that, Rabbi Kefa. Todah, Baruch Hashem. So, some of you, I think that this is a question that I saw, is somebody who was struggling to create money. Let's call it a creation, or manifest money. And so the $1 million question was that, I've done all the exercises, and I'm having difficulty seeing the money come into my life. So that could be a question. I'm paraphrasing the question. So what would you, how do you overcome it, and why do you have that problem? So the symptom and the solution. The symptom could be that you're having difficulty with money. You may be having problems, and you're seeing difficulties in resolving those problems. So one of the reasons why that happens to people is usually because they have a belief system that goes back to their childhood, and it may stem from something their parents said, or it may stem from something they experienced as a child, and they find that things are difficult, things don't happen so easily, and money is tight, and so they get used to that tight living. And so that's a belief system that's deeply embedded in your consciousness. And I was looking at the word conscious on dictionary, and this is what I got. Term conscious, I searched on dictionary.com, and it says this: remember I spoke to you about sleeping in consciousness, consciously creating your desires. And it says consciousness means aware, awake, wide awake. It's totally the opposite of sleep. So when you sleep, how do you sleep? Wide awake, or aware, or awake. Basically, it's like I told you, you consciously are thinking and seeing the pictures of your reality, your desire. That's how you sleep, awake and wide awake. So therefore, it's very important that if you are having issues, then that means that you need to, if you are one of those people that's having issues with money's coming in hard, I'm going to give you four statements that you can write and you can read and you can speak, and those 4 statements will help you to manufacture your desires easily, because you're not going to reprogram yourself. We're going to remove the old programming, and we're going to put new programming in there. So your first affirmation is going to be, something wonderful has already happened for me. Number 2, miracles are happening for me all the time. Number 3, all my problems have passed away. Number 4, money is here for me continuously and easily. And I'll repeat this again. Something wonderful has already happened for me. Miracles are happening for me all the time. All my problems have passed away. Money is here for me continuously and easily. And I will also make a statement, what Rabbi Kefa made, and I will top it with 1. I am well able to overcome all my problems, and I have. I am well able to overcome all my problems, and I have. That's from Caleb. So these are the statements that you could run with, and they will help to reprogram and make things easier in your life. If all you see is problems, issues, hurdles, and this is how you're going to overcome it. Problems have passed away. Money is here for me continuously and easily. Miracles are happening for me all the time. Well, you go out, you have a problem, suddenly a miracle happens. Problem's gone, vanished. Oh, how did that happen? It just vanished. Miracle. God's created a miracle for you. This is why I gave you the meditations, the Gimel meditation, the Hachoshen meditation. I gave you all those meditations because they will create miracles in your life. They reprogram you. Those sounds, they reprogram you. So it's up to you. And Devorah, Tudar Rabbi for the 10 Commandments mat, that mat. Devorah sent me a 10 Commandments mat. I'm very grateful. Thank you very much for the gift. I will be taking it with me, and I will be putting this in my house for everybody to see. It's not going to be hidden. I'm not going to stand on it and pray. I'm going to put it on my wall so everybody that comes to my house, Muslim, Christian, I don't care who, Hindu, they all will see that mat. And I'll proudly display it. Baruch Hashem Yahweh, that's a great mat. That's a great, beautiful mat. So if anybody wants a mat, a 10 Commandments mat to be designed, then Devorah is your woman for you. She can do it for you, and you can talk to her. And she makes great, beautiful mats. So that's basically where I am. That's where I live. I live in the state of a king. And by the way, don't tell me that Levites were never kings, because we were. The last dynasty of kings in Israel was from the Levite clans. Next time you read your Bible, you learn that we were the last dynasty. And Deborah has put her email address, ladycoleman27@yahoo.com, if you wish to make that mat, that type of mat. I'll say it slowly. Lady, Lady, D Coleman, Coleman 27@yahoo.com. So there's a lady as spelt, D for Deborah, Coleman 27@yahoo.com. That's her email address. You can connect with her and she can do something for you. Great, Baruch Hashem Yahweh. And absolutely, we're having a wonderful day over here in Ohio, and I look forward to travel and having a wonderful time in traveling. And everything is great, and everything goes great, and everything works out wonderfully for me all the time. Every time I go, works wonderfully for me. So I'm looking forward. I love traveling. Looking forward to traveling, and a lot more people are traveling these days. More people are beginning to travel in airlines as the airlines have opened up, as this hideous virus is coming down. We're seeing more travel, and we are seeing more businesses pick up in the US. More jobs are being created. The last job numbers, if you follow those, the last job numbers had gone up. I think there was some statement somewhere that 2 million jobs have been created since the new administration came into power. Again, I can see that there's been much more business activity in this country, in this nation, Baruch Hashem Yahweh, that people are going out more, and people are beginning to experience life as they did prior to the infection, and may we go from strength to strength. And Baruch Hashem, that everybody keep well, look after yourselves, continue what you're doing. If it is working for you, great. If it's not working for you, maybe you need to make some tweaks, and it will start working for you as well. So live in a state of happiness and joy and abundance, and may you go from abundance to abundance, health to health, and may you always be well and good, and may the God of Abraham bless you, keep you safe, and safeguard you. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. Have a great, wonderful Shabbat week ahead. Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. If you wish to support our work, you can go to www.forever-israel.com, or www.abrahamic-faith.info, and there is a donate now icon for PayPal, and you can send in a donation of your choice from that particular address. You can also use Cash App, and you can use PayPal directly, and you can send a donation to Shimon63, SHIMOUN63 @yahoo.com, or you can send a donation to $SIMALT with the Cash App. We greatly appreciate your support in this endeavor for us to spread the truth and the correct way for people to better their lives and to serve the God of Israel in their lives. Thank you, and may you be blessed forever. Amen. Amen.